In the most hidden corners of the universe, where mystery intertwines with eternity, lies a compendium of ancient wisdom that defies the limits of human understanding. Universal Metaphysics by Saint Germain is much more than a simple text. It is a portal to hidden dimensions, a guide for the soul that seeks to uncover the secrets of the cosmos. Through its enchanted pages, Saint Germain, the enigmatic master of spiritual alchemy, invites us on an unprecedented journey. His words, imbued with magic and knowledge, resonate like echoes from timeless ages, guiding brave seekers through a labyrinth of hidden truths and sublime revelations. Prepare to be transported to a realm where reality and imagination converge, and where each idea is a spark that can ignite the fire of inner transformation. In this journey, the veil of time dissipates, and the essence of eternal wisdom unfolds before you, revealing the mysteries that lie beyond the visible. Listen attentively, for each phrase of this text is a key that can open the doors of your consciousness to new possibilities. Immerse yourself in the universal metaphysics and allow Saint Germain's teachings to illuminate your path towards a deeper understanding of reality and yourself. Embark on this fantastic and mysterious journey and discover the transformative power that resides in the heart of the universe. Chapter 1. The level where you find yourself, the level of consciousness. Every individual has a level of understanding and acceptance of certain truths, believes in some things, and rejects others. This level of understanding and acceptance is the state of consciousness that has gradually formed from experiences resulting from free will. The level of consciousness is like a ladder with many rungs. All human beings on this planet are situated on one of these rungs, higher or lower, and the level of understanding they have reached is their truth. On the spiritual plane, there are many paths to achieve internal evolution: philosophies, religions, esoteric schools. All these levels are good, necessary, and must be respected. A metaphysician always acts with understanding and tolerance and does not engage in discussions or controversies for religious or spiritual reasons. He does not censor anything, nor does he consider himself better, smarter, or wiser than others. It is important that you understand this concept of the ladder and the level of consciousness, because this is how you will be able to live in peace with your fellow man and avoid the attack of superiority, of spiritual pride, which would make you disdainful of what seems inferior. Nothing is inferior or superior in this matter, as these are internal levels that are surpassed through greater understanding and personal effort. Metaphysics. The word metaphysics means beyond the physical, that is, beyond the material world and concrete realities. Metaphysics teaches truths that exist but are not seen. However, although invisible, they produce certain results, as the invisible world is the cause of everything that manifests. For example, energy does not reside in the motor we see, but comes from the invisible, although it is accepted as a concrete reality. Many truths exist but cannot be seen or touched. We normally believe and accept a number of invisible phenomena, such as electricity, magnetism, heat, life, and love. All these are unseen, just like the ideas that give birth to material forms. There are other realities besides those we see and touch, much more important and transcendent, and we must know them to free ourselves from many dangers and difficulties very common in the world of ignorant people. The truth will set you free, therefore it is essential to know and understand so as not to fall into misfortune. Occultism. The spiritual teaching of an esoteric type was called occultism because in the past it had to remain hidden and accessible only to the most sincere seekers due to the frequent persecutions driven by ignorance and fanaticism. You will know that in this age of Aquarius, occultism is dissipating due to the same progress. The avatar of the new era, the ascended master Saint Germain, has decreed that these truths should no longer remain hidden, as there is no reason to keep secrets in the age of light. Thus, the instruction is given to anyone who wishes to hear it, without any distinction, payment of money, hidden initiations, or silent mysteries. The veil of mystery has fallen, there are no more mysteries, for everyone has the right to the truth, and all have the intelligence to understand the metaphysical level at which they find themselves. Metaphysics has many expressions which are different levels of understanding and truth. All spiritual knowledge that has surpassed the religious stage is metaphysical. You know that there are serious and sincere metaphysical schools such as the Rosicrucians, Freemasons, Gnostics, Spiritists, and even now the scientific level of parapsychology. All these metaphysical levels must be respected because they are necessary, as each person is positioned according to their vibrational level and understanding of the truth, at the place most appropriate for them to continue progressing. We, the metaphysicians here, belong to the Brotherhood, which is the highest spiritual level currently on Earth, as it has been directly projected by the avatar of the new era, the ascended Master Saint Germain, from the high spheres of light through Connie Mendes and duly prepared channels. Faith in the invisible. Faith in the invisible is necessary to advance in the light, just as faith in the visible and in what is not seen. However, the metaphysician is strengthened by the verification of results. He who remains in the teaching with a mind full of skepticism and doubts will achieve nothing, for faith is necessary to move mountains, as the Bible says. It will not be blind faith, but based on knowledge and practice or verification of results. By their fruits you shall know them. Everything is known by its fruits. Freeing oneself from suffering, you must know that no one was born to suffer, that God wants the most beautiful and glorious things for everyone. But man has misused life with his free will and human will, misusing internal powers, vital energy, or the holy breath. Because of this, the earth currently shows this aspect of confusion, imperfection, and chaos. It is necessary to change the thinking of the masses, to cleanse the world of errors, misunderstandings, and false beliefs, so that the planet can move forward and take its rightful place in the cosmos. It is also very urgent to free the mind and life from suffering, to teach the masses to no longer accept it, and to understand that it is not God's will for man to live unhappily on earth. For this reason, the Ascended Masters provide instructions to break the chains of limitations and permanently free life. The new way of thinking must be generally accepted, as this is what is urgently needed now. Change cannot be imposed, but must be gently sought by each individual and accepted internally. Dogmas and ostentatious rituals are no longer necessary, as spiritual awakening and evolution proceed from the inside out and not the other way around. Nothing changes on the outside if a change has not first occurred on the inside. Among the fundamental truths that free from suffering, the following are born. Everything is created in the mind. Man creates his own destiny, the conditions of his life, his sorrows, his joys. Everything is his own work. God is not in the clouds, but in the heart of every human being. There are no sins, only mistakes that can be corrected. No hell is eternal. You must set your mind to positive if you want your life to improve and leave behind the old world of suffering and limitation. Today is the day of a new beginning. Today is renewal. Everything comes from the eternal present. Chapter 2. We are what we think, and thus we manifest it. Learning the art of living. Just take a look at life to realize how burdened and unhappy most human beings are all over the world, in the streets, on buses, at the office, or at work. Everywhere we encounter tense, hurried faces with signs of worry and fear, wrinkles of bitterness and fear, tired faces with marks of despair and suffering. In this mosaic of faces, few radiate joy, satisfaction, and hope. Humanity is unhappy because it has not learned the art of living or how to overcome its difficulties, as it focuses its attention on the negative and destructive, enlarging and multiplying it. This persistent fixation increases its power and fills life with calamities. The art of living is not taught in any earthly school or university, even though there are so many studies everywhere. Painful and difficult experiences usually serve as learning, but since there is a lack of understanding of the right way to live energy and life, as well as the powers and faculties that man possesses, are misused, especially thought, feeling, and speech. This misuse leads man into bitterness and suffering, into many problems that could be avoided if the learning were based on light and correct knowledge. The planet on which we live has so far been a world of atonement where man comes to pay his debts and learn through experience. Earth is a classroom of the cosmos, a school in the vast space where very necessary lessons for individual evolution are learned. So far, and because of the wrong way of living, it has been a world of karma and suffering. But now, with the beginning of the age of Aquarius, the era of great light, all this has been dispensed with. Countless opportunities are given so that each person can rise as much as possible, free themselves from their unhappy life, and reach higher levels. The projection of light that is being given to the planet from above at this moment is extraordinary and surprising. It has never been so strong before. This happens because a stage has been reached, a great cycle ends, and the Earth must graduate, ascend a level, with all the human beings who inhabit it. We belong to the family of planets of the solar system, and there is a general ascension. We have a delay of more than 5,000 years. We have been waited for too long, and now the cycle is closing. In these metaphysics courses, we will learn the art of living, the correct use of the energy of thought and feeling, as well as all the other human faculties that have been given to man for his good and happiness. What is creative power? The Bible says that man was created in the image and likeness of God. This does not refer to physical form, but to the powers and faculties that the human being inherits from God by love as his child. All the powers of God are held by man, but in potential, and he must develop them through his own efforts. Nothing is given to him if he does not deserve it or if he does not strive for it. The human being is like a sleeping seed that potentially holds the entire plant with its roots, stem, leaves, flower, and fruit. But all this must be developed over time, with dedication and perseverance. Just as the plant needs water to grow, man needs knowledge, experience, and realization through his own efforts. The greatest power that God has given man is called the power of the word, a great creative force formed by thought, speech, feeling, and action. With this power, the human being constructs his own life, good or bad, and must learn to use such powerful tools well. If he misuses them, he will fall into conflicts, suffering, and misfortune. Man is a creator, and also the captain of his own ship, as he directs and produces the conditions in which he lives, even if he does not know that he possesses such power. An individual should never be the toy of circumstances, but rather their owner and master. Why does he not take what has been given to him? Because he ignores it and does not make use of his power. He believes that what is outside is more powerful than himself and falls victim to this illusion, becoming a slave instead of a master, which he should be. The correct use of the word. The correct use of the word is crucial. The word is a powerful energy that comes from thought and goes out to create. It acts as a seal, marking everything it touches and giving it life. It is a double-edged weapon, creating both good and bad and manifesting them in life. Depending on how one speaks, the conditions around us will be happy or unhappy. Each person is responsible and the sole creator of their own world. One is responsible for everything that happens to us. When the word is used correctly, it produces wonderful results and pleasant conditions. The correct use is to always speak positively, removing any negative, destructive, or unpleasant expression that would harm others or oneself. The incorrect use of the word results from the lack of control to speak, saying negative things, criticizing, insulting, offending, mocking others, etc. Speaking for the sake of speaking is very harmful. Saying anything without knowing the consequences causes many problems. Remember that the word is a decree that manifests outside and creates concrete realities, good or bad. You would do well to learn to control the use of the word and let only what is constructive, good, and beneficial for others come out of your mouth. Mental power. Mental power is governed by the first law of creation, called the law of mentalism, which says that everything is mind. As you think, so you are. Where your mind is, there you are. What you think is what you become. The power of the mind must be controlled, as it is the greatest power of the universe, and from its proper use depends all that happens to us positively. But if it is misused, it becomes a disaster. We all know how to think. We all know how to think, and every time we think, we create. Thoughts are things that materialize externally. Thoughts and beliefs form concrete realities for happiness or misery, depending on their direction. If you misuse mental power because you are unaware that you possess it, it neither justifies nor mitigates the condition that will result. The mind is like a factory always in action, producing concrete things that come out and project externally. Learn the proper use of the mind, and you can succeed. Chapter 3. Thought and feelings are the basis of creative power. Thought and feeling are two powerful tools that form the basis of creative power. Everything that exists in the world owes its origin to the combination of thought and feeling. Thought carries the mental pattern or image projected by the mind. When a thought is intense, the atoms that constitute material substance or form group around this image, and finally, the force of feeling gives life to the idea, transforming it into concrete reality. Nothing in the visible world exists without having been thought and felt before manifesting outwardly. It is very important to control feelings and keep them in harmony, because uncontrolled energy will pass through them, producing disasters and destroying one's own life and that of others. It is necessary to avoid feelings of anger, vengeance, hatred, envy, selfishness, resentment, etc., as they greatly disturb personal life and the lives of those around us. Any negative feeling generates discomfort and destruction, causing separation due to lack of love. Feeling holds 90% of the manifestation, meaning it carries the greatest potential energy to bring things into reality, whether good or bad. Thought materializes ideas because it is a dynamic energy with the power to materialize things and conditions. Work, love, marriage, success or failure in business, people's physical appearance, health or illness, economic and social life, etc. All these situations have passed through the mind before becoming a reality, and they have been thought, conceived, accepted in this life or in a previous one. If you do not believe in something or never accept it, it can never manifest in your personal world. You will be what you think you are, and will live according to your conceptions and beliefs about yourself and others. Everything you are and live has been created by your thoughts and beliefs. You must know that you have the power, and must know how to use it for good constructively. From now on, you can start creating a better life, succeeding and triumphing in what you want by using mental power correctly. Thoughts are the cause of everything that exists, and conditions are the effects or concrete realities in physical life. Tomorrow, we will be what we think and believe we are today. Each person builds their own world through the mind and feelings. The creative mental power is like the bow and arrow because it goes directly to its target. The mind, like a bow, sends the energy, the arrow or thought, that materializes and manifests through the power that the hand, the feeling, exerts. The latter holds the greatest force for the final result. When we think, a kind of magnetic current similar to a ray of light emanates from us, which can powerfully influence others and reach great distances without limit of extent or place. The thoughts of others exert a great influence, especially if projected with great force capable of overcoming any resistance posed by the receiving mind to whom they are directed. This applies to convincing others, but if they are forced in this way, it brings karma to the person who projected them because it violates free will. Thoughts are our children, our creations. If they fulfill the purpose for which they were created, positive and negative thoughts, good and bad thoughts, have different nuances. Positive thoughts have a clear and limpid color. A person who thinks and acts positively radiates peace, harmony. Their aura is clear, and their vibrations are luminous. They appear pleasant and attract others through their sympathy, surrounding themselves with everything similar. Negative thoughts are dark and dense, increasing their energy and power as they transmit from mind to mind, creating monstrous entities that float in the atmosphere, such as hatred, war, materialism, and vengeance. People who habitually think negatively are unsympathetic, unpleasant, and inspire fear and distrust due to the vibrations they emit. Moreover, by affinity, they attract what is similar and live in that environment of discomfort. Both positive and negative thoughts return to their creator because of the law of the circle, and in an amplified manner, as they join the energy of similar thoughts encountered along the way. It is therefore not advisable to think badly, feel badly or speak badly, as it returns to its source, creating serious difficulties. Mental and emotional control, self-management of thoughts, feelings, and words, is something very necessary and urgent in today's world to avoid continuing to generate destruction and imbalance or further poisoning the world. The individual must make an effort to rise above their condition of inferiority and elevate themselves above the lower level of the masses. This is achieved only through conscious control of thought and feeling, by disciplining the human ego, which is the outer consciousness. No one can remove limitation, misery, or discord from their life until they master their thoughts and feelings. This discipline of self-control requires continuous effort because 95% of human thoughts wander freely and uncontrollably. It is worth dedicating all the effort and time necessary to be able to positively change one's own life. Human limitation and lack of money, for example, originate from very old habits of negative thoughts and feelings, which are not easy to eliminate due to the time they have spent reigning. The same applies to health problems and other issues. If there is no harmony and peace in feelings, nothing good will happen in a man's life. To harmonize feelings, one must calm down. To harmonize feelings, one must calm down. This is not easy because people's temperaments are emotional and impulsive, and they explode over anything. Emotional control means controlling energy that should be released only for what is constructive, good, and joyful. Self-correction of human weaknesses, vices, and passions is very necessary for spiritual progress. Only through the correction of one's human self can mastery and well-being in daily life be achieved. The external being, the personality, must learn to obey the dictates of the higher self within you, the internal God. But by the law of free will, it is up to you to decide who directs your life, the lower self, the personality, or the higher self, the divine presence. Emotional self-correction is the basis for tranquility. However, emotional self-correction is not easy because the turmoil of the senses creates furious rebellions that make the divine energy by which one lives and moves ungovernable. Every individual on earth is free to look at the light or decide on sensory pleasures, materialism, and the sensory world with its pleasures and dazzling appearances. The easiest path is the satisfaction of passions because it requires no conscious effort or self-correction. It is urgently necessary to correct all habits of thought, feeling, and speech. Self-discipline forms the basis of well-being and success. The individual must not let their attention be captured by disturbing external things and must stay on guard. No longer accept the negative. Reject it. Do not let it penetrate your world and poison it. In everything you do, there is a discharge of energy. The energy awaits its expression like a torrent. If it is not controlled, it will rush forward quickly, causing many problems and conflicts. This happens with uncontrolled emotions. They create destruction. Feelings of irritation, discord, selfishness, anger, hatred, and vengeance are very disturbing. Keep away from all fights and quarrels. No longer give in to external provocations. You must maintain peace. Mental control of thought and emotional control of feelings. The mental control of thought is as important as the emotional control of feelings. No longer accept thoughts of discord, hatred, or fear, nor anything negative or false. Open your mind to new, positive, and joyful thoughts. As you expand your mental field and overcome your limits and problems, your life will improve because everything begins in the mind and is first generated there. There must be knowledge, then acceptance of the truth and practical application. Greater knowledge corresponds to greater open-mindedness and more transcendence. Practicing this instruction of mental control, reject all negative suggestions from other people. Do not fight or argue. Do not enter into controversy. Silently, if something you hear disturbs you, say this affirmation: "This is not correct. It does not interest me. I do not accept it. I reject and forget it. I dissolve and consume it by the power of the light." Another affirmation: "Only God's perfection comes out of me. I accept only correct, good, harmonious, and constructive thoughts and words. I reject everything that is inferior and disturbing. I open my mind from today to the new thought." Control of speech. The control of speech in this last affirmation refers to thoughts coming from our own mind, which is poorly accustomed to looking at the bad and the unsuitable. The mind must be disciplined to change polarity and direct attention only to what is good, correct, and pleasant. Having faith in the bad, continually looking at it, and repeating comments about it is inappropriate, as Connie Mendez says in one of her books. Think about the good, and it will be given to you, for as you think, you attract into your personal world everything that your attention is fixed on. You believe it, you talk about it with others, and you discuss it. Of course, if you think about the bad, it will also be given to you, and you will attract it into your life with all the consequences. Emotional control affirmation. Affirmation for emotional control. I always remain in a calm and joyful attitude, no matter what happens. I live in peace and am at peace. Control your emotions. Practice self-regulation mentally and emotionally. Calm down and relax. First, you must learn to calm down mentally, emotionally and physically with the body. This is commonly called relaxation. Initially, it is not easy because thoughts and feelings are uncontrolled. The body shows some tension in certain areas like the forehead, shoulders, lower jaw, and thighs. We do not recommend relaxation by meticulously focusing on the body from feet to head, as this takes too much time and is not necessary. Simple relaxation technique. It is enough to do the following. Sit in a comfortable position, back straight. It is best not to lean on the back of the chair or lie down, as you might fall asleep. Additionally, this is the correct position to properly use the extra energy that flows through the crown chakra at the top of the head. Before sitting down, choose a comfortable, clean, and pleasant place with sufficient light. We do not recommend being in the dark for better concentration, as it is not advisable to have no ventilation, and for the walls to be light-colored. Light protection. Perform a light protection, visualize and feel the body enveloped in radiant white light. Affirmation. I am the light of God that protects me from everything that is not perfect. Take several deep and rhythmic breaths. It can be 3, 7, 9, or as many as you like. Think that you are breathing not only oxygen, but also this powerful force called the divine breath, the sacred breath that gives us life and is contained in the air. Stay silent, observe, and give orders to your body. Stay calm, observe your body, and see which part is tense, then command the tense muscles to relax, loosen up, and calm down. Affirmation. I am peace and balance. My entire physical body is peaceful, relaxed, and in perfect harmony, and I practice silence. In the silence of the inner being is the truth. Emptying the mind. After relaxing, do not think of anything. Try to keep the mind empty for a short period, that is, not think of anything. This can be difficult because problems and worries flood the mind and do not want to obey. All this requires technique and perseverance. As a reference point, you can focus on the heart to feel its beats. Think that the heart is the temple, not made by hands, and that God is there. This exercise can take about 20 minutes a day. It is good to start with 5 or 10 minutes, then increase the time as much as you want. If you practice the exercise twice a day, you will get better results. When you feel a lot of heat, don't worry. When you feel a lot of heat, don't worry, as it is the release of energy we talked about. Don't expect phenomena, hearing voices, or strange things. You simply practice silence and focus inward where God resides. Chapter 4. I look at my present, the eternal present. Many problems and inconveniences are caused by uncontrolled thoughts when one dwells on unpleasant things from the past or torments oneself over an uncertain future. One doesn't enjoy life and misses opportunities due to this mental habit of living outside the present, which is now in which we live today, repeating each day, forging links in an infinite and unbroken chain. The right way to live is to enjoy the present today, to experience today all the good experiences and things that life offers. For today, the eternal present constitutes the greatest wealth of human beings, and it is where the tools to shape the future are found. Today is all we have, and the future, which doesn't yet exist, depends on how we live today. Success or failure results from how we live today. Today, we build what will happen tomorrow, and yesterday is dead. It no longer exists, so there's no need to remember it. In any activity you undertake, try to focus your thoughts on the present moment and do your best to accomplish that task. Don't worry about tomorrow, and don't relive what has already passed, as it's a waste of time. The bad habit of reliving the past as humans live in the present and have nothing else is not fortunate. Remembering past things, whether unhappy or happy, is useless for the following reason. When they are good and pleasant memories, recalling them brings some melancholy, nostalgia, and sadness, a longing because those experiences can no longer be lived. If they are unhappy, intensely recalling those moments brings suffering and unhappiness, and where you place your attention it grows, energizes, and increases. When you comment on and remember unpleasant events, they regain strength and interfere again in your current life, creating difficulties. Do not allow your mind to return to the past and rob you of your peace. It is somewhat like thoroughly cleaning a carpet, but your dog brings bones and garden debris and lays them on it. This cannot be allowed, just as you cannot dirty your current life with dead, sad, and unhappy things from the past. Discipline the mind and emotions. You must discipline yourself mentally and emotionally to get rid of the bad habits of commenting on and remembering what has already passed. Instead, invoke the law of forgiveness and the violet flame to dissolve and eliminate everything undesirable in your life, the sufferings, traumas, and difficulties. Painful memories are useless. Giving too much importance to your own problems and pains is pride and selfishness. Commenting, repeating, and remembering a painful past attracts negative forces that disturb greatly. That is why, generally, the head hurts after such conversations, lamentations, and complaints. The habit of lamenting is very harmful, creates a bad environment, and leads to what is called bad luck. Those who habitually lament, blame themselves, and complain are never happy. They continually attract negative forces, unfortunate conditions, and even easily fall ill. This happens because such words carry the germ of resentment. The resentful person is never happy. You must free yourself from memories by ignoring them and not dwelling on them. Blaming others, life, governments, or politics is useless. It generates resentment, complaints, and laments about the harshness of life, what it took to get by, the irresponsibility of others, and so on, leading to personal failure. The habit of dramatizing is another bad habit to eliminate. This exaggerated form of magnifying negative facts always leads the dramatizer to see the bad, highlight it, and give it such importance that it greatly disturbs everyone. Dramatic people are sad, insecure, and rather lonely. Accumulated sadness forms a very heavy energy load that oppresses life, coming and going like a bouncing ball, causing discomfort around. Do not torment yourself about the future. It creates unhappiness and makes you lose opportunities to normally enjoy life. The root of this mental attitude is fear and personal insecurity, the lack of spiritual realization for not knowing the divine presence, I am, our Almighty Father, who always assists us. If you do not call him, he will never respond. So, only limitations, sufferings, discomforts, and difficulties remain to live thus. Those who live in fear of the future are the ones who buy cemetery plots in advance, seek retirement pensions, save too much, and deprive themselves of essentials in the present. This does not mean it is impossible to think about the future. It is good when done with serenity and peace, without anxiety or self-imposed limitations. It may seem irresponsible to live in the present, but it is not if faith has not been developed. This practice does not manifest faith in God in our heart, who can do everything. Chapter 5. I was born to triumph. We were not born to suffer. God did not create us to be the toys of circumstances. Our destiny is not to suffer or endure pain without reason. Life resembles a school for people undergoing common spiritual evolution and a university for the more inquisitive, those seeking essential values, understanding, and wisdom. There is a certain truth. We all come to learn in this school of the cosmos, which is planet Earth, and nothing that happens to us is due to chance or coincidence, for chance does not exist, only causality. According to what we learn in our daily lives, we will elevate our level of consciousness, that is, our understanding and our ability to see beyond the limitations we impose on ourselves. Through difficult experiences, we awaken spiritually, ceasing to be men and women who are asleep. The truth is not that we should resign ourselves to pain and suffering with passivity, as imposed by religions and the absurd belief that God wills it. What God wants is our happiness, our health, our joy, that we prosper and live happily, and that we progress more and more. The negative and sad aspects are created by man himself through ignorance and error. There is a common life in ignorance that leads to the greatest calamities, and faced with misfortune without wisdom, there is nothing left but to resign oneself. But this is not God's will. Wherever you are now, whatever your living conditions, stand up and look upwards, for it is your destiny, given by God, to one day reach the stars. Today is the beginning, and the eternal present can generate everything. Being eternal, time has no limit for everyone. It is enough to reach out more and more to achieve the perfection of being and exist in infinite, unlimited time. Learn this truth. We were not born to suffer. Everything can be improved, regenerated, and changed. Just as the tissues of the flesh regenerate quickly with any medical treatment and bring health, likewise the whole human being has an immense capacity for regeneration at any time and in any place in their life, if they desire, propose, and try. For God is in their heart, a divine presence and divine energy, the greatest power of the universe to accomplish what is necessary. No matter that you know the truth, it will set you free. Work then with this truth, make it yours, raise your will, lift your eyes, and stop being a sleeping, beaten, defeated person. You know that I am in you, and I have been for many millennia. This is the name of God. The reason for problems and difficulties while we live in this world is that we all have problems and situations that disturb us because we are on the path to the perfection of being, which is the glorious destiny. And as long as we do not conform to the divine plan of perfection imposed throughout the cosmos, suffering will come as a result. No one can conform to the divine plan or rise above the lower without sufficient wisdom or knowledge of eternal truths, which are the engine of the perfection to which everyone is destined. That is why a well-known spiritual principle says, "Know the truth, and it will set you free, free from everything, without flavor or discomfort, difficulty or problem." Problems are like precious tools of perfection. For each one, through personal effort, is the sculptor who shapes their own image and molds their destiny for better or worse. Nothing happens by chance nor as divine punishment. It is a lie. Everything comes to be regenerated if it is negative, or to be strengthened and cheered if it is positive, mainly for you to overcome it through wisdom and experience. Nothing grows without personal effort. Even plants develop this way. They too are living beings striving towards the perfection of being and existence. Nothing is given to us for free, for everything must be conquered personally, with one's own effort and the help of the God in your heart. Problems are also your work. You can choose. There is a sacred law respected throughout the cosmos called free will. It allows us to choose what we want to do and desire, not excluding the inclination towards evil, nor giving wisdom for nothing, nor even telling anyone that it exists. So, people can go where they want, even if it is to fall into the abyss. You are free to make of your life what you want. For better or worse, it is your sovereign right, and no one or nothing can prevent it. Free will allows us to lead our lives according to our desires. We can choose among the circumstances that present themselves, but we must be very careful and watchful in our way of living. We must make good use of the vital energy and powers given to us, and we will have to account for it before the karmic tribunal at the end of this material existence. It is very important to watch our thoughts, feelings, and words, for we already know that what we think, feel, and say is what we will have. In other words, if you enjoy, you are not a toy of fate. Everyone is free to create their own conditions in life. We are the captains of our own ship, and not the toys of a blind force that takes us here and there. What happens is that often, through ignorance, we create this fate joyfully, foolishly, and irresponsibly, and thus we also sow our lives with calamities and misfortunes without even knowing that we have the tools in our hands. We create terrible karmas that we will have to pay in future lives, but there is always time to straighten and fix things in the eternity of life where it can be done. No one is a drop of water pushed by the waves without aim or direction, for this drop of water is part of the immense ocean and possesses all the living powers of Father God. You are not a leaf carried by the wind, without aim. The power is inside. You have the power, use it, but not unconsciously, but in a good and constructive way. A bad use of power brings disasters. A good use of power brings good and joy. Chapter 6. The body is the vehicle of my spirit. The body is the perfect tool. The divine and immortal being in eternal time must express itself precisely on the physical plane for the purpose of evolution and to acquire experiences, which is why it needs a body that is the perfect instrument for its purposes. This instrument is the body of flesh, which, due to its very density, has very little awareness of the higher spiritual. Such a useful tool has been created with everything this dimension needs: a head to think, hands to act, feet to walk, eyes to see, a heart to feel. Nothing is missing from this wonderful machine driven by the divine energy of life, well adjusted and powerfully resisting all setbacks. Like any imagined tool intended for any use, the body needs to be well treated, cared for, nourished, and kept clean. Abuse, excess, and neglect destroy it and lead to its deterioration, its disintegration into what is called death. Excessive indulgence spoils it and fills it with bad habits. This instrument must be used well, for we will have to account for it when facing the karmic tribunal. The body also needs to be refined, educated, improved to be effective and achieve the best goals. The body, as a covering, is like the clothes that cover and envelop the thinking being, for the supreme consciousness is always within it, just as on earth no one can walk naked in the street. The eternal entity must also clothe itself to be able to manifest in the form of life. This clothing, once it is old, dirty, and worn out by misuse, is discarded, and the supreme intelligent energy leaves the garment of flesh because it no longer serves and can no longer be used. Then it moves to higher dimensions to continue living. People on earth think that the individual has died, which is absolutely not true. It is a mistake to mourn at the grave in cemeteries and go there with sadness and pain, thinking that loved ones are beneath the ground. Only a useless garment rests there, disintegrating little by little, while the eternal entity has left. It is like a chariot or a vehicle, serving as a means of transport from one place to another. We all need to move and change environments because nothing is static. Due to its density and heaviness, the body cannot fly on earth and must walk slowly, which is why it has been given legs and feet. The supreme intelligent energy, which is the thinking being, uses it to move, but it is not the only vehicle it has. It has others to visit different planes during sleep at night, during meditation, and when inevitable death arrives. Just as a traveler never stays in one country, the consciousness or eternal entity likes to visit other places, near or far. This is allowed by Father God. While on earth, it only knows and feels it has a body, the garment of flesh, but in reality, it can have three others: an etheric body that provides energy, an emotional body with which it feels, and a mental body with which it thinks. Additionally, there are 3 spiritual vehicles for higher purposes. In total, there are 7 vehicles of man that we call bodies, and each fulfills a specific function on earth. There is not a single vehicle intended solely for transport, just as we have cars, motorcycles, bicycles, buses, airplanes, trains, helicopters, boats, and many other means of travel. They also exist in the vastness of the cosmos. Man, being a citizen of space, is not denied any opportunity, provided he conquers and deserves it. These vehicles are like houses, serving as dwellings for the being who lives in them and uses them for their own purposes. But houses can be well or poorly used, well or poorly maintained, leading to their preservation or deterioration. Sick and imperfect bodies are like old, poorly maintained houses that deteriorate little by little. Healthy bodies that radiate health are like clean, neat houses whose inhabitants live happily and joyfully, respecting the laws of God. The physical body is the most obedient of the 7, and submits the most to the will of man, for better or for worse. According to how it is treated, the indulgences granted to it, the bad habits allowed, the mistakes and abuses committed with it. A bad habit is the result of erroneous imposition or excessive indulgence. At first, the body resists because it possesses the wisdom of what is right, but when the person's insistence and pressure diminish its resistance, it then accepts and does things as a routine difficult to abandon. The physical body is the most obedient of the seven and the most submissive to the will of man, for better or for worse, being the temple of the living God. As such, it must be respected, revered, and maintained. It should be kept clean and in the best possible condition. It is not good to mistreat the body, just as one should not enter a temple with an impure spirit or bad intentions. No one should degrade their body with base passions, quarrels, controversies, or discord, as it is like filling one's own house with waste and garbage, opening the door of one's home to drunkards, ruffians, and undesirable people. Do not subject your body to excessive work. Do not exhaust it. The body is the strongest machine, but it should not be abused. Do not provoke diseases, as it generates karmic debts that you will have to pay in your future lives. For example, those who do not take care of their bodies by weakening them with bad practices, dietary restrictions, disrupting their proper functioning, will see diseases present themselves in their next life. Sporting activities, when excessively exhausting the body, do not align with the laws of God. Practice sports with moderation, without excess or energy abuse. Take good care of the body and use it correctly. All that is negative is transmuted. Transmutation means changing a lower belief into a higher one, transforming, liquidating the old and imperfect to restore life to its positive condition, which is good and perfection. For example, health is the transmutation of disease, wealth of poverty. Wisdom results from the transmutation of ignorance, just as beauty results from ugliness. All that is negative can be changed to positive. Transmutation is a divine alchemy and constitutes a powerful activity of purification, establishing the necessary balance to free life from all that is imperfect and disturbing, generated by the individual and collective human mind. We must primarily transmute discord, which turns into family and social quarrels, into war, into violence and destruction. All the mistakes of the past that have brought problems and conflicts to the present must be transmuted. All that is imperfect can be dissolved through the activities of transmutation contained in the consuming violet flame. This powerful dissolving energy was projected onto Earth by the Ascended Master, Saint Germain, from the 8th octave of light to liberate our planet from misery and suffering. We can use it for our well-being and progress. Purification is necessary at the individual and collective level if humanity wants to survive in the future and harmonize with the great cosmic law of harmony and perfection. We must dissolve the imperfect that it has created, purify the earth from so many horrors. All that goes against this cosmic law is destroyed by the principles of cause and effect, karma, as it does not correspond to the plan of perfection established throughout the cosmos. Master Saint Germain represents the activity of purification as the avatar of the new age. He is responsible for governing the destiny of Earth for the next 2,000 years. That is why he has brought forth the powerful violet energy, which can be easily invoked, producing amazing results. It consumes all that is below purity and perfection, dissolves discord, all errors and limitations, burns and undoes evil. Without the use of the violet flame, no one can achieve liberation on this planet, nor end the successive cycle of incarnations. The violet flame is invisible to physical eyes and acts similarly to electricity from the 4th dimension. It can be seen by some clairvoyants. Transmutation means hope and elevation for the current world. It is like a fire that consumes all it touches and produces immediate results. The decree of transmutation in the name of God invokes the powerful, purifying and consuming violet flame. I immerse myself in the radiation of this energy and allow the great power to begin transmuting my life for good and perfection. I invoke the law of forgiveness for all the mistakes I have made in the past and present. I give thanks. Blessing decrees, praises and thanksgivings increase and precipitate what is desired or needed. Just as Master Jesus blessed 5 loaves and fed 5,000 people because his consciousness of good was enormous. Bless all you want to see increase. I bless the good in this situation and want to see it manifested. Blessing generates a powerful high-frequency energy, just as cursing produces a very destructive and disturbing black energy. You must give thanks and bless everything you possess. By doing so, it will increase and bring greater benefits. Blessing money attracts more money and enhances material well-being. Blessing the family produces harmony and well-being. Everything contains good. In the face of any unpleasant situation, do not be sad or in a bad mood. Think that everything always happens for the best and that there is a hidden good. If something does not materialize despite requests or efforts, it is because it is not appropriate. Do not force circumstances to make things happen according to your external will, as the result will not be good. Everything contains good, and in everything that is imperfect, labeled as bad, there is hidden good waiting to manifest. You can bless money, health, family, friends, home, truth, and work. Do not bless people but their divine being. Do not bless the sick but their health. Do not bless the thief but his divine being and the honesty manifested in him. Some affirmations in the face of any problem or setback. I bless the good in this situation and want to see it manifested. When I receive money, divine love through me blesses and multiplies it, so it multiplies in my hands and in the hands of those who gave it to me. In the face of any negative situation that disturbs, I do not accept it for myself or others. I invoke the good here, bless it, and await it. If something contrary to our desires happens, I bless this situation and the hidden good here. I know that everything always happens for the best, and what happens is for the best, and what does not happen is not suitable. To reject the negative, I do not accept anything that is not the manifested good. All that is wrong in my life must go. In the face of any confusing situation that is not understood, I bless the good contained here. I know that everything contains good. Chapter 8. Effort is my path to improvement. The first law of creation, the law of mentalism, is so important that those who do not know or practice it do not advance a step on the spiritual path and remain stuck in their progress. Even when advancing an instruction sincerely, if students continue to comment and criticize in practice, they are wasting their time. Sometimes, interested and good students who seem very advanced spiritually use words and energy incorrectly. For trivial matters, they expose the flaws of their best friend and start criticizing the negative aspects they see in them, which, as we know, are not the truth, but only an appearance of imperfection from their lower human side. Everyone, deep inside, is perfect, because their divine self is perfect. Appearance dissipates with the breath of truth, and the truth frees us from all that is inferior and disturbing. When we do not give power to this, and do not even see the negative, it is a matter of focus. Attention goes where we want to direct it, and stays there to produce results, for better or for worse. Negative comments are the source of many problems and troubles, because they strengthen the bad, worsen the situation, separate people, and create many difficulties. They form a black smoke that clouds and poisons the atmosphere. For this reason, students who do not practice the law of mentalism do not advance and do not free their lives from difficulties. When comments are full of criticism, gossip, and censorship towards others, they cause a lot of harm. It is like a high-powered bomb hidden somewhere, and no one knows when it will explode. For this reason, immediately stop negative comments and do not allow anyone to proceed this way around you. Rose-colored glasses must be maintained. Unity at all levels is important for a metaphysician, whether in the family, friendship, professional, or social context. Where there is unity, good and perfection manifest. But if disunity occurs, separation happens immediately and opens the door to a negative polarity that destroys and disrupts everything. A family whose members remain united withstands any trial, no matter how severe, and emerges victorious. Inseparable friends are invincible. Only love unites and maintains strength. Unity is a powerful and victorious energy. When a person loves someone, they do not see their flaws. But if they start to focus on the imperfect aspects of their character, and worse, comment on them, division appears immediately, and the friendship or romantic relationship ends. The family separates and everyone turns against each other. Therefore, for those who wish to maintain their family harmony, friends or loved ones, we advise the following. Wear imaginary rose-colored glasses to see only the good in each person, because as soon as you start seeing the bad, you feed it, attract it, and create a barrier, a separation. A breach is opened, and friendship, affection, love disappear. Moreover, effluvia can come into action to disturb. We all have flaws, it's what people say. But you know it is not the truth, because those things that bother are only appearances, which disappear with the breath of truth that frees us from problems and makes us harmonious and happy. When you start seeing flaws in others, problems start in your life and others. It is the harvest of what you have sown. It is the law, because you have slipped without realizing it towards the negative pole, thus allowing it. When you notice a flaw in someone and talk about it to others you criticize, it does not help at all. On the contrary, it harms them because it sends a negative mental energy that clings to the flaw, increasing its size and thickness. Because of this, people who are criticized often find it difficult to get out of their mistakes and improve. Always seeing the good and perfection in everything is essential. Here is an important spiritual rule that produces very good results. It rests the mind and lightens life. Whoever always sees the good, no matter the appearances shown by the eyes, has already prepared and positively arranged the ground for tomorrow's sowing. But one must remain constantly vigilant, because the eyes tend to always focus on the bad, on what is not suitable and disturbing. It is an old habit. See the good, and you will see it, says Connie Mendez. Exactly so, because you attract it and bring it into your world with precision, sooner or later. Similarly, if you see only the bad, you also immediately bring it, and, so to speak, it clings to you, increasing all your attention, like a magnifying glass focusing the sun's rays on the weeds in the field, with great power and causing a fire afterward. Everything we examine with a magnifying glass seems enormous. The same happens when you focus your attention on foreign effects and negative things that are not suitable. You energize them, amplify them, and cause quite disturbing manifestations. Control the power of your attention and do not let it wander. You already know that attention is a great power and you must make good use of it. It is always possible to correct, says Master Jesus. Do not grieve over apparent obstacles. Do not let yourself be attacked by the rain. Be vigilant. You are the soldiers of the new era, standing, always on alert. It must be realized that when you form the moment within the group, everything transmutes, everything comes out fresh from the conversations. But if you stray away, influence can come to disturb us. Take control and do not allow it. Every time you make a mistake, you can always rectify and correct the error. Chapter 9. Resentment is a stop, it creates unhappiness. Resentment is a very unhappy condition, more so for the one who generates it than for others, strangers to the situation. By virtue of the law of the circle, everything that one radiates, everything that one engraves inside, projects outward, makes its journey feeding on similar thoughts, and then returns multiplied in the consciousness of its creator, poisoning their dwelling, which is the mind and the body, the temple. No one who harbors resentment towards a person, a situation, or a place can live peacefully, in peace. It saddens, extinguishes joy, diminishes enthusiasm for living, and ultimately makes one sick because sudden illness arises, difficult to control. It is known that resentment brings bitterness into life, ages, and makes one sick. Inside, it forms like a hive that will manifest at any moment, unpleasantly. All resentment, all grudge towards people, situations, or things that have been engraved inside must be immediately transmuted, as no one can spiritually progress with resentment in their heart. It paralyzes, stagnates, because resentment is somehow a minor form of hatred, where there is a total absence of love, as well as a critical mental attitude and condemnation. Anyone who judges negatively does so out of lack of understanding, tolerance, and love. When a hive forms, there is danger because these insects infiltrate everywhere, invade the house, and attack unexpectedly, creating difficulties. No one has control over a hive and its consequences unless it is completely exterminated. The same goes for resentment. It must be completely eradicated, which is only done through good transmutation treatment. It happens that people full of resentment become rich and live in certain comfortable material conditions, but inside they are bitter, dissatisfied, and their spiritual life has not prospered. Light cannot express itself properly when we let a room fill with black smoke, which imprints on the walls and dirties everything. We, metaphysicians, must look inward, not apologize for anything. But if we know that resentment resides there, transmute it immediately. It is necessary to cleanse the mind, heart, and body of such things. Let's not pretend to make any progress on a path of light if we do not put an end to any grudge that resides within us. It is a firm, determined, and tenacious work until the cause, the core, the memory, and the memory of these conditions are eliminated. Anyone who wants to settle their life must remove all resentment from their heart and transmute with the violet flame any hidden resentment. Otherwise, even if they have money, their life will become a disaster. It is especially necessary to understand and forgive oneself as well as everything that needs our forgiveness. There are huge egregores of resentment filling the atmosphere. These are accumulated human creations that pass from mind to mind. But this should not concern a metaphysician who knows the laws and is trained. If they keep their feelings in peace, their mind clear, and do not put themselves in vibrational affinity with what is inferior, they have nothing to fear and will always be safe. Resentment towards life, things, and conditions. Many people blame life for their unhappiness and lack of luck. There are also those who believe that the city, the country where they live, are responsible for their mediocrity, or the fact that they have not been able to progress. Others blame work, bosses, and colleagues who hate or envy them, and it is even possible to blame objects, material things, for personal misfortunes. This mental attitude is a serious mistake. It solves nothing and always worsens things. It must be understood that only a person is responsible for their own problems and difficulties because of their mistakes, erroneous concepts, and beliefs in a wrong mental position. People who act like this hardly thrive because deep in their hearts there is a feeling of resentment that poisons their lives. Every individual must thank life for the multiple opportunities and blessings it offers. Resenting life by blaming it for an unhappy condition is a serious violation of the law and always creates a karmic situation. There will never be happiness for those who think like this. Life must be constantly blessed because it is a precious gift and is never responsible for anyone's misfortune or unhappiness. Nature purifies both the egregores of resentment and any negative human creation. Coming out of the mind of its creator, they go into the atmosphere. Nature, feeling overwhelmed by imperfection, sends this burden back to its origin in a normal process of purification. This is the cause of earthquakes, cyclones, volcanic eruptions, and other processes called destructive disasters. Nature tends to rid itself of such impurities and send them back to where they came from. It's like bathing or cleaning the house every time it gets dirty. No one wants to stay dirty because it causes discomfort. In this way, nature purifies itself by getting rid of the contamination of discordant human thoughts and feelings and regaining its condition of divine purity. Similarly, resentment only harms the one who feels it and never the one who is the object of that situation. It is not at all appropriate to harbor any form of resentment in one's heart. Chapter 10. Divine order manifests love. If you love something, let it be free. If it comes back to you, it is yours. If it does not come back, it never was. What is love? Undeniably, love is a sublime feeling, an emotion that arises from within and leads to giving. Metaphysically, it is also a pure and selfless energy that drives one to offer, to serve, to seek the happiness of others without any interest or reward. Love encompasses many domains or aspects and is not limited exclusively to the relationship between couples, as is generally understood by love. What we consider as love in this world is only the surface and outer edge of this sublime principle that every human being must realize in its entirety, and not only in one or several aspects such as family, marriage, friendship, passionate devotion to a branch of knowledge, art, or science. Love for life with all its creatures, including its inanimate aspect, constitutes a broader and fuller aspect of love. Once this is fully realized, there is no longer a reason to stay on the physical plane or to reincarnate. At this stage, one achieves ascension to higher levels. True love must be devoid of selfishness, desire for possession, impositions and legal traps, bonds and enslaving constraints, egotistical passions, because there is much self-interest in saying I give you and you give me. Sex and passions color human love and remove its sublime quality. When there are low passions and an instinct of possession, possessive love destroys the root of love. Because it is free, generous and detached, it can never grow or thrive in the oppression of possession. Those who try to possess others, by considering them as their property, claim to love them very much and they believe so. But in reality they have not even learned to love. Selfishness acts disguised within them. For this reason they impose conditions and cause suffering. They often say, I do this for your own good. This is the best for you, but they do it only for their own good. If you want to destroy something, try to seize it, and you will see how it gradually fades away like a candle burning silently. When you cut a rose, you put it in your palm. Then you close your fingers to imprison it. By trying to possess it in this way, you inevitably destroy it. But you will also prick yourself with the thorns of your hand. This is how it goes with someone who tries to possess others. This engenders in them a certain rebellion that can erupt violently at any moment. People imprisoned by the will of others live sad, unhappy, bitter lives. Even if they have managed to resign themselves a little, they are like a prisoner behind bars, and they will try to escape at the first opportunity, leaving the oppressor alone, because the submission they manifest is forced. This fate awaits jealous spouses, dominant parents, exclusive friends. In the end, they are abandoned once their ability to endure, the fear of respect, or the limit of tolerance has reached its limit. Any violation of the law engenders suffering. For this reason, we say, if you love someone, whether it be your child, your girlfriend, your wife, a friend, etc., let them be free. Only love can live and grow without attachments or limitations, without the chain of selfishness. Do not force your will on others. Do not tell them what they should do or how they should behave. Do not forbid them things beyond fair limits. Protect your love, but without an iron hand, control yourself if you do not want to lose it. To preserve your love, you must respect the will and nature of others, their tastes and ideals. Do not despise anyone if you believe yourself to be better. Remember that no one is perfect humanly, and that freedom is a gift from God. Thus we are all born with this sacred right to think, to be, and to act, called free will. No one has the right to violate such a sacred law. We must understand that love without freedom is useless and is not even love. Let others grow and live as they have the right to. The hell of jealousy. Jealousy is a subtle form of selfishness, and a hell because it engenders much suffering. Because there is no love in them, jealous people stem from fear combined with selfishness, lack of self-confidence and insecurity. That is why they are accompanied by suspicions and discord. Jealous people think they love a lot, but they do not even know how to love. Jealousy poisons the atmosphere and makes it unbearable. Jealous people torment and chain the loved one to the limit of endurance. In the end, they deserve to be left alone and to learn to truly love through difficult experiences. A metaphysician can do much for those trapped in this unhappy condition by applying appropriate treatments and bringing light into the darkness. Letting go is the key. When you release something and free it from your mind without selfishness or indifference, you give it the freedom to breathe and to live in its own way. This is how wonders happen. For example, a girl's boyfriend feels unhappy and overwhelmed because she always demands attention from him, constantly tells him how pretty she is, etc. This boyfriend will flee and never return. In this case, we say, do not torment yourself for his lack of love, because if he comes back to you, he is yours, and if he does not come back, he never was. No one takes a boyfriend or a spouse away from someone else. There are deep reasons in these cases that are not visible at first glance. Firstly, one of the two wants it this way and allows it. Secondly, The one who left was a passing bird who was not supposed to be in your life. Everyone follows their own path. There are just laws, and everything is in divine order, even if it seems otherwise. Love for all that is created. Love is not a limited and exclusive feeling because it extends widely to all creation. It is a great folly to think that love is only related to love between partners and to physical sensation. One can love many things: life, money, work, entertainment, art, music, power, country, a cat, a dog, a friend. What is called love between partners is a mixture of sensations and possessive passion. It will not persist if it is centered solely on bodily attraction, for it is the union of souls and not of bodies that endures. Everything that is created deserves love and respect: animals, plants, human beings, without distinction of race or color. Reverence for life is a sacred law. The color of love is pink and emanates from the heart, from which its strength and power spring, called the triple flame. Chapter 11. Transmute fear. It's an imposter. The greatest enemy of the human race is fear. The less fear there is, the more health and harmony you will have. The more fear there is, the more calamities will enter your life. The only true problem of humanity is to rid itself of fear. When you are not afraid of a situation, it cannot affect you. Of course, remember that there is often fear in the subconscious without you realizing it. The best proof that you are no longer afraid of a particular situation is the joy, the feeling of happiness you feel about it. It is important to remember that fear is an imposter. Tear off its mask, and you will see it collapse. An amusing anecdote occurred in the Netherlands a few years ago. A lion escaped from a traveling circus. Nearby, a kind lady was sitting, sewing near an open window. Suddenly, the animal jumped through the window, dashed like an arrow, crossed the hallway and took refuge in a closet under the stairs. The brave lady thought this exhalation was a donkey. Outraged by the muddy paw prints left by the animal on her shiny floors, she began searching for it and found it hidden in the closet among her brooms and mops. She then began beating it with the brooms. The lion, trembling with terror, cowered at the back of the closet, and the angry woman intensified her blows. At that moment, 4 men armed with rifles, lassos, etc. arrived and captured the lion, who surrendered without resistance, relieved to escape from this terrible woman. When the kind lady discovered that it was a lion, she fainted and remained ill for several days. This anecdote perfectly illustrates the demoralizing power of fear. Our brave lady was completely dominant as long as she believed that this animal was a donkey, and when she treated the lion like a donkey, she believed it to be very powerful. For this reason, she was terrified of it. Once the lady discovered her mistake, the old belief in fear returned, and although she was completely safe, she continued to react according to racial tradition. Demolish the fear within you. Focus all your efforts on that, and everything else will be taken care of. The treatment for fear consists of realizing the presence of God within you and the powerful and unchanging love of the Father, who always protects you from any adversity or danger if you invoke His action. This must be a reality for you. Love neutralizes and eliminates fear. The Bible says, "There is no fear in love because perfect love drives out fear, for fear contains error and attracts problems into your life." If you fear something, you will see it manifest because you give it power and strongly attract it into your world. He who is afraid has not realized love, affirms the Bible, 1 John 4:18. And we, metaphysicians, add to this: fear attracts what it fears. If you are afraid of being robbed, you will be robbed, and everything that frightens you will manifest. This law is like a magnet. No one can avoid it. The best remedy is to stop being afraid, overcome fear, because it is not fitting for you to have it. Chapter 12. Transmute regret. When someone must make a decision, they must do their best at that moment to fulfill their duty. Later, if it turns out that they were wrong, they are in no way at fault, for no one knows how to do more than what the specific moments allow. Even the wisest person in the world could not do more than what they understand and believe they can accomplish. That is why it is absurd to have regrets for past mistakes that were made in good faith. This internal regret removes peace and causes much inner damage. Anyone can foresee what will happen by reflecting and examining what is happening, but it is difficult to foresee wisely. What matters is to do the best one believes and is capable of doing. We give you this advice. It is good to do things as best you can, taking into account all circumstances, and then to regret nothing. Metaphysical students always ask for light from their divine presence before making a critical decision. They ask their inner Christ to guide them so as not to make any mistakes. Then the result will be favorable if they let themselves be guided by their intuition. It is important to firmly believe in what one asks or demands, because without the faith that moves mountains, no reality will manifest in daily life. Living with regrets for something is a heavy burden that saddens, ages, darkens the days, and breaks harmony within oneself. When someone does something wrong and causes suffering to others, a serious regret remains in them, aggravated more and more, as things have no solution and cannot be rectified. But everything always has a solution if you have reached the level of metaphysics and already know the truth about this regretful situation. Dissolve it, because it serves you no purpose. Forgive and forget. Violet flame with this past gone. Erase the error, the fault immediately, but if there is no guilt in your actions, it will greatly relieve you to think that at that time you did your best according to what you knew, if you could, as best as your level of consciousness, understanding and evolution allowed in all circumstances, likely to push you to regret. Do not allow it. Do not spend your time reminding yourself that you acted badly and could have done better, because there is no rectification possible. What is done is behind us and is forgotten. Soothe your conscience by saying to yourself, I did my best and acted according to my best knowledge at that time. I conclude this matter. I move on to a new chapter, chapter 13. Triumph is the goal of my life. Success is about overcoming difficulties. All those who have succeeded in any way have done so by overcoming obstacles. Where there are no challenges to overcome, everyone reaches a happy ending, and this cannot be qualified as success. There was a time when establishing a telegraph line from New York to Boston presented many difficulties. Afterward, it became very easy, but succeeding in laying the transatlantic cable was a major feat due to the difficulties to overcome. Later, these problems were also solved. There are no personal situations, as serious as they may seem, that cannot be overcome by calm and persistent spiritual treatment and appropriate action. If you encounter an obstacle that seems to oppose success, do not accept it. Exploit that obstacle and use it for your success. The writer H.J. had to give up a poorly paid job due to health problems, which forced him to stay at home and devote his time to writing books that made him world famous. Edison became deaf as a post and decided that this would allow him to focus more on his inventions. Theodore Roosevelt was a sickly child who was told he had to live indoors to protect himself. He was also very nearsighted and nervous, but instead of accepting these recommendations, he strove to develop his body and, as we know, became the strong man who held the presidency of the United States. He wrote an operetta called Pineford while bedridden with excruciating pain. The owner of a famous fashion house in London was the wife of a modest salesman attacked by tuberculosis. She had never been involved in business and had no training, but faced with the problem of providing for her husband and 2 children, she had no capital, only a good taste for clothes and faith in prayer. Today, she is a rich and famous woman, and she says, I thought I would like to be able to sell the type of dresses that I had never been able to buy. Whatever your problem or obstacle, overcome it. It always seems like your own problem is the hardest of all, but spiritual treatment and courageous determination can overcome all problems. Problems are signs that indicate the path to God. Being dynamic means being a dynamic person. Many would like to be considered dynamic but seem to have a vague idea of what it means. Many think that dynamism consists of behaving aggressively, loudly or pompously, while others think it consists more of attracting attention in any way to be noticed and distinguished. In reality, none of this comes close to the truth. A dynamic person is one who does something to change the world and people who do something to change themselves. The extent of their work may not be great, but it is a fact that the world is a bit different because this individual has lived and acted within it. That is what it means to be a dynamic person. Those who are dynamic always do something to change the world and people. We say this, and it is demonstrated by the example of many famous people who have succeeded in changing the lives, destinies of thousands of human beings, and their works are known to all, such as Emperor Napoleon, Washington, St. Paul, Bolivar, and others. There are also many men and women whose works are barely known, but who, on their scale, are dynamic because they have changed the world in a small way. If you succeed in doing something, no matter how small, you are dynamic and you help make the world different because you have lived in it. If you only seem to do something, if you talk about it, move here and there, and do not realize the essential, namely changing others or yourself, then you are not really dynamic. You are simply playing a role and with little conviction. Someone who does something in a new and better way is dynamic. Someone who manages to grow 2 grains of wheat where there was only one before. Someone who succeeds in creating a business that serves the public or finds a job for others is dynamic. Someone who produces a useful invention, composes good music, good poetry, paints beautiful paintings, doctors who heal, teachers who teach, all leave the world a little different from the one they found. Washington changed the course of history, and you can change the life of a single person by healing them, teaching them, or simply inspiring them to achieve what they desire most. The essential thing is to have transformed the previous picture, what was before. There are people dissatisfied with what they are and who love to appear very much. So they spend their energy on what is visible from the outside and which has no real usefulness. They adopt imposing attitudes and speak in vain of great things they have accomplished or think they will accomplish, for which they consider themselves very dynamic. In reality, they manifest just the opposite. The secret to being dynamic is to believe that God accomplishes all things through you, whether great or small. You must put your talents and skills at His service as sincerely and practically as possible to become as dynamic as necessary. If you put this system into practice, even for a short period, you will be amazed at the amazing results, and you will see that you truly become a dynamic person. To serve correctly is to live in truth. You will recognize them by their fruits, chapter 14. My heart is the temple of God. The traditional concept of God disappeared after the disappearance of the glorious past civilizations like Atlantis, Lemuria, and Mu, which had reached a high degree of understanding of the one God. The peoples of the earth fell into great ignorance and delay that persisted for many centuries. One of the gradually outdated beliefs was idolatry, the belief in many gods represented by idols, sometimes monstrous and grotesque. Later came the currently accepted religious concept of a dictatorial and just God, always ready to punish the sinful creatures of this world. They placed him in a distant place in space, vaguely called heaven, and portrayed him as a benevolent but somewhat arbitrary old man. Sometimes he would become furiously angry when things didn't please him, and other times he would be extremely conciliatory and forgiving. Religious people still speak to their followers of the fear of God, of the anger of God, and the faithful agree that God must be feared, so they must behave well to avoid His anger. It is necessary to avoid behaving badly. This belief was deeply ingrained, especially in the past. Centuries passed in misunderstanding of the truth and in the acceptance of things as absurd as the anger of God. Absurdity. Can God, a perfect being, all love and wisdom, feel any anger and punish the so-called sinners? Absolutely not, for a perfect, all-loving being can never punish his children, especially knowing that they are entities in primary evolution with still many flaws to overcome. Metaphysicians know that it is the spiritual laws that seem to punish, if necessary, to restore divine order. But above all, to allow each person to learn their lesson by themselves and to rectify their behavior. Let us not blame anyone for sowing in the minds this conception of a just God sitting in the clouds, for humanity must normally pass through states of consciousness and levels of understanding increasingly higher. Beings of the Piscean era could not give more than their interpretation of sacred scriptures. Nowadays, The Aquarian era enlightens consciences, and the understanding of God comes closer to the truth. The beloved Master Saint Germain, avatar of the new era and spiritual guide of the world for the next 2,000 years, taught humanity the existence of the magical presence I Am, or inner God, residing in the heart of man. This causes individual consciousness to recenter inward and not outward as it did before, and produces wonderful results. Finally, man learns to know his Father and to know that he really exists. Placing God in a distant place has serious consequences for individual evolution. This changes the focus, turns attention outward, which distracts, stops, and delays the normal process in the conscious awakening of the inner God, of that one God who came after idolatry and to whom many names were given, more than 70. Among the most known are Yahweh and Jehovah. For those who are atheists, they do not believe in God or anything spiritual. Those who are not atheists have mentally and emotionally adopted a form of God, understanding it in their own way. What does God represent to you? Do you believe in this benevolent old man who has his palace in the clouds? Do you find God to be an energy, a blind and impersonal force, something cold, mechanical, and devoid of emotions? Do you believe God is an abstract principle, an idea to be religiously accepted? Whatever your concept of God, we respect it because it expresses the spiritual level you have reached and the internal level of understanding that is unique to you. For now, as evolution always pushes upward, it is logical that you do not remain there but continue to explore. We, the metaphysicians of the Saint Germain fraternity, no longer believe in blind faith, but in reasoned and logical faith deeply felt. We know through the direct teaching of the ascended masters that God resides in the heart of man, and that is where he must be sought. We know that there is an internal divinity, a personal or divine God, a master of all love, infinite wisdom, unlimited power, something similar to that guardian angel mentioned in religions. For he has been taking care of us for a long time in the eternity of the ages, until we have grown enough to be able to fend for ourselves. For now he gives us life in the form of a fluid energy that enters through the top of the head, crown chakra, and anchors in the heart. He gives us all the powers and faculties we have, as well as all the opportunities and experiences we need. God is love. He never punishes his Son, who is the evolving earthly creature. The millennial concept of my God and our God is deeply rooted in the individual subconscious. We all know inwardly that there is in every human being an individualized presence, an inner divine God, a master to whom we can turn for assistance in times of need and danger. So we cry out, "My God, help me." If this concept of our God were truly ingrained, when we suffer and need help, we would say, "Our God, help us." However, it does not occur to anyone to invoke our God, but rather my God. Why? Because we inwardly know this truth, for we have lived many lives, and thus acquired knowledge manifests spontaneously. However, there is our God, a powerful cosmic entity in its masculine-feminine aspect. For God is truth, both Father and Mother. This divinity resides in the great central sun, and is the guiding intelligence of all systems or worlds under his tutelage and authority. The divine presence I Am, the inner master or inner God of every human being, is called the divine presence because it resides in each person as manifested energy, power, and light. I Am is the name of God for a metaphysician and means, I am in you and I express myself through you as energy, intelligence, and love. Thou shalt have no other gods before me, says the Bible, for I am in thee. The phrase I Am has been translated into Hebrew as Jehovah, and its pronunciation closely resembles I Am. The divine presence is also our Father, and identifies with the Christ who resides in the heart of man, being one with Christ in unity, power, and glory. It is important to learn to obey the supreme internal power in order to progress spiritually, for it is the love of the Father that provides for all needs, protects in dangers, grants intelligence to understand, and love to forgive. To attain mastery over external conditions and inherit the powers of the Father, one must first learn to obey with one's human part or lower self. Obedience to the inner God must be self-sustained, with firmness and sincerity, until the shell of the human self is broken and the individual knows that he has no power except what the Father gives him. Then, he decides to serve his inner master. Following the impulses of the heart rather than the reasoning of the intellect is also obedience. Intuitions are victorious and excellent. Maintaining conscious contact with the Father is also essential to gain strength, wisdom, health, and inspiration at the right time. This is achieved very well by following the frequent practice of contemplation and also through meditation. It is necessary to have conscious adoration towards the supreme source of life and to show gratitude for the gifts received. A powerful, self-sustained current is the human being, for he constantly receives energy from his divine presence, I Am. This energy descends and flows uninterruptedly. It is a ray of golden light that enters through the head and anchors in the heart. It is under man's control, even if he does not know it. The powerful stream of life poured out every second is used at all times, whether awake or asleep. Only when man misuses the power of energy and deteriorates his body temple so much that it becomes unusable, does the divine presence withdraw the stream of life from the physical body, and it becomes isolated, disintegrating, dying in reality. The only thing that dies in the human being is the body, for energy always continues to flow into the other vehicles available to man. Life continues on higher planes. The creative phrase I am holds immense power as it commands energy to act positively or negatively, which is why it's crucial to be very careful about what one says and thinks. The secrets with I am are extremely potent. After receiving energy through the crown chakra at the top of the head, man immediately qualifies it mentally through concepts, ideas, and words. Instantly, the energy acts to execute the given order because the human being is a creator, whether knowingly or unknowingly. The mental directive is always obeyed, hence the importance of being mindful of what one says and thinks. Do not issue commands that could turn into calamities for you through mere words. Do not let your thoughts go unchecked because it doesn't suit you. After thinking and saying something, the energy always rushes to carry out the order. Positive decrees are a blessing, but negative decrees destroy and cause suffering, conflicts, and numerous problems. The individual has the power to command, and this is called the power of the word. Everything possessed by the personal or human self is borrowed, for one comes into this world even without clothes. Everything one possesses is lent by the great Master Presence, their Father. It is necessary to acknowledge the wonderful power of the Presence to grow, become free from all misfortune, unhappiness, ill luck, recognize and accept the Divine Presence every morning and every evening. You relax, focus on your heart, and after finding peace, you utter the following decree. I acknowledge, I accept, and I bless the fullness of the powerful and magnificent presence of God, I am, of the radiant Christ, and I invoke it into action for today to manifest all the truth, beauty, and perfection that reside in my divine plan. Beloved presence of God within me, I accept and joyfully receive the wonderful regenerative and vital power that constantly flows through my physical body to manifest perfect health. I calm my feelings. I keep my human self under control to now receive all the power of light. Thank you. Chapter 15. The right way to pass your exams, the correct mental and emotional attitude. Several negative conditions prevent a student from succeeding in their exam and lead them to failure. These conditions are created by themselves by accepting certain external situations, words, and remarks from other people, and giving them power, predisposing them to the evil that will inevitably manifest. Fear of failure. If the student approaches the exam with fear or apprehension of failure, they have already failed because fear attracts what one dreads. During an exam, one must go in with confidence of success and determined to do so. When a student has not had enough time to study and has not been able to cover the entire curriculum for personal reasons, they must forget about that and think that everything will be fine. They will invoke their divine presence into action, give it the command, and always expect the best with total conviction. Anxiety and insecurity strongly influence the poor result of an exam as they open the door to evil. Just as fear is faith in evil, personal insecurity attracts defeat. We already know that faith is not only strong religious convictions, but there is another kind of faith more practical, believing in oneself, being sure of one's knowledge, feeling that everything will be fine. Fear and insecurity block the mind, which remains blank when the student is tense, preoccupied, and scared of failure. That is why, even if they have studied a lot, sometimes ideas do not come, and everything seems forgotten. When a student is stuck and cannot recall anything during the exam, something specific happens. Once the test is over and they have calmed down, they raise their vibrations again and remember what they had forgotten, what they did not answer correctly. However, it is too late. If the test is written, it is usually marked by a negative vibration from the teacher. In preparing for the exam, they seek out what they consider to be the most difficult for the student, what they have not shown interest in. Since the student is in a state of anxiety and fear, they lower their vibration. To this is added what the teacher brings, and the ground is thus prepared for failure. While this may be true in some cases, one must not think ill of the teacher, nor judge them negatively. Do not focus on their faults, if any. Bless the teacher and ask for perfection to manifest in them. If they seem unpleasant to you, it is because you are projecting antipathy towards them by speaking ill of them. Envelop them in the cloak of understanding and peace. In this way, in a short time, you will have a friend, a collaborator. What you see good and perfect in others is reflected back to you, but if you focus on the bad, if you speak about it, feel it, and think about it, the bad will reach you, disrupting your life and environment. Think about the good, and it will be given to you, says Connie Mendez. But if you focus on the bad in others, it will come back to you multiplied. That's the law. Success and failure depend on oneself and are not caused by external conditions. It's a metaphysical principle. One should not blame others, the environment, circumstances, or anything external for individual problems and difficulties. For no one but oneself is responsible for everything that happens at the personal, familial, or environmental level. One who is calm and at peace receives peace, but one who is fearful and anxious because they expect the worst grasps it and draws it into their world. No one can avoid it. Starting from scratch, being lazy and irresponsible, passing an exam does not mean being lazy and irresponsible. One who acts in such a way does not respect the law, and things do not go well for them because they have not made an effort to contribute. It is necessary to take responsibility and study first so that things can proceed correctly, and not resort to cheating, tricks, and deceit, as that doesn't work either. The student expecting good success must be pure in mind and heart, and not compromise with what is not correct. Maintaining a positive mindset is very important, and not allowing, even for a second, the slightest thought that the exam will be a failure, that the exam will be difficult, and that they won't know how to answer. Erase all of that from your thoughts, your words, and do not feel it at all. Acknowledging the divine presence and invoking it into action within oneself, the teacher, and all the students, this loving Father in each one will ensure that everything goes well. Remember, don't forget to thank before and after the exam. A grateful person deserves all honors and distinctions. Thank you, Father, for hearing me, and everything is fine. Treatment given by the beloved Master Kutumi before going to the exam. The student will calm down to be prepared and at peace, eliminate any idea of fear, and have confidence in themselves, thinking that everything will go well, and do this treatment. Beloved presence of God within me and within the teacher, I love you, I acknowledge you, I bless you, I invoke you into action to manifest perfection during the exam. I remain calm, at peace, and decree that everything will go very well. I envelop myself in the cloak of truth and project this truth to the teacher and all the students taking this exam. I am victorious success and perfect fulfillment. I ask the beloved Master Center to radiate the violet ray to envelop this exam. Any negative particle contained in this situation, this negative energy, if it exists, must be transformed into positive energy, return to the great cause, then return to the teacher in the form of wisdom and understanding for all. I complete this treatment with the pink flame of divine love, which harmonizes and uplifts. I ask the powerful presence to project light and wisdom to the cells of my brain to whom this responsibility belongs. May they awaken and accept to fulfill their service well. Thank you, Father, for hearing me, and this exam is already approved. When students enter the classroom to take the test, they must remember that they are there to succeed in the exam and that their divine presence directs the situation. I am victorious success in harmony with all and for all. Chapter 16. We are all students. Earth is a school of the cosmos. Indeed, Earth is a classroom where we are all here to take exams. Normally, the universe has countless halls of knowledge and practical learning, each of which are worlds or stars that populate it. Of course, the stars are not up there in the firmament, only to shine in that infinite space called the sky, so blue and beautiful when seen at night for some. This planet is a primary school classroom because it is here that one learns elementary and fundamental lessons while living. Others study something similar to high school level, and a few are at a higher level, such as university level. Life on Earth is not the result of chance or a blind and inexorable force, for it is still carefully programmed by high spiritual hierarchies and by the being themselves who will be born, who gives their consent and accepts the conditions through which they must pass, good or bad, pleasant or unpleasant. No one is born without having all their papers in order, precise documentation with an identity card, a place of birth, a profession or a job to which they will dedicate themselves, and everything else. That's the truth. No one is born by chance, by the whim of what is called destiny, for destiny is formed by oneself according to their will and the law of free will. One comes into this world for several reasons. First, one is at this level of evolution, and it is the class that normally corresponds to each one. Second, one decides it for oneself and asks permission to be born or reincarnate in the physical plane at the karmic tribunal. If the request is granted, one must accept the debts that are incumbent upon them and be born to pay them. These debts are mistakes made in past lives due to erroneous behavior that caused harm to others or oneself. In addition to paying these debts, the person who incarnates must learn practical lessons based on experience, correct their faults, and develop qualities, elevating their mental and emotional level each time. For the human being is in a process of continuous evolution and must always move forward. Evolution is a law that governs the entire cosmos. The so-called problems, the difficulties of life, are exams or tests that each person must pass to progress, move to higher levels, and ultimately obtain a diploma of superhuman. When there is nothing left to learn on this planet, when there is no more attachment to material possessions, when one manages to overcome selfishness and to manifest ascending love for all that is created, one definitively leaves this world, carrying their dense body transformed into light. One is no longer born like a baby. This life is over. The wheel of reincarnations stops turning. But one continues to live at higher levels and in higher dimensions. The ascension of consciousness and the physical body was publicly achieved by Master Jesus on the hills of Bethany before about 40 people nearly 2,000 years ago to give us the example that we all must follow. What I do, you can do, and even greater things, he said. I am the way, the truth, and the life. Follow me. Ascension is not an exclusive privilege of Master Jesus, but a law, a process in the graduation of being. Sooner or later, everyone must graduate, go through initiation, and definitively leave the planet. Reincarnating in the dense world again and again is not the only thing one can do there. One day, for every human being, it will come to an end, just as one who obtains a university degree reaches the level of a doctor and improves their economic condition, life, and environment. Similarly, one who passes all their exams in life also receives the prize of a tremendous change and a better ascension. The so-called problems are tests to overcome, practical initiations, exams to move from one level to another. While these experiences are happening, the individual does not realize the importance of what is happening, because no one has told them that it is a test at a personal and evolutionary level. If they were to know, they would probably try to pay more attention, more care, and perhaps they would do well on the exam. Chapter 17. Contemplation. Entering into silence. We have already indicated that contemplation is a brief but very effective form of prayer. It calms the mind, soothes the emotions, relaxes the physical body, and puts us in contact with the divine within each of us, which is the supreme source of all wisdom and power, the divine presence, the I Am. If one considers that the divine presence is energy in action, it is always within us and with us. But this presence is also love, intelligence, will to act, power of realization, and all the attributes and qualities that the human being possesses, the benevolent gifts of the supreme presence where the great power of God resides. For this presence is God himself, individualized in each human being. Although the divine presence is always with us in the form of fluid energy, intelligence, love, and power, in the ordinary form of life called normally life, it is necessary to make a conscious contact to obtain greater gifts, more strength, health, and enlightenment that lead us to success and a healthy life. The man without inner light is like a blind person who constantly bumps into walls, furniture, and often falls into holes in the road. By the law of life, if one does not strive by their own will, and if one does not accept to be guided by higher spirituality, they will not achieve greater accomplishments. Imagine a very large water reservoir supplying water to cities. When the communication valve is almost closed and the pipes are obstructed, very little water can reach the citizens for their daily water needs. This is a malfunction that must be corrected. Similarly, if the pipes are clogged, barely a thin stream of water can barely make it through. But when the plumber is called and these pipes are cleaned, the water flows abundantly, uninterrupted, and everything improves significantly. The same goes for the human being. The communication channels with the supreme power of the presence, its father and giver of everything they need, are blocked, and only a meager life force necessary for the normal functions of being and existence barely manages to pass through. This happens because the man is enveloped, penetrated by certain clothing or internal bodies, his instruments, which allow him to think, to feel. These internal clothing or bodies are very neglected and dirty, which constitutes an obstacle to the help, radiation, and protection of the divine presence. Man must consciously strive to clean these channels, then he must recognize his Supreme Father, accept him, bless him, and thank him for all the gifts that have allowed him to be and exist over so many centuries. Contemplation is a spiritual practice that allows for establishing this conscious contact with the Supreme Father, with the magical power that gradually liberates the individual from all their limitations and suffering. Other benefits of contemplation include better health, cellular renewal, and improvement in physical appearance thanks to the extra energy that descends from above, given by the Father, and which flows more abundantly when the valves are open. This energy generally manifests as warmth throughout the body, a tingling sensation at the top of the head, at the crown chakra, and tingling in the palms of the hands. Contemplation brings peace and balance. One who practices it regularly is generally calm, serene, their emotions do not depress them, and they do not easily despair. They become a magnetic irradiation magnet for other people. But the most important and transcendent thing in contemplation is the awakening of the inner Christ residing in the heart, an internal divinity that is asleep and lethargic in most people. This Christ is not the Jesus Christ spoken of by religions, although he is the Son of the Holy Trinity and resides in every human being. For we are all three in one, and in each one there is a Trinity. When the Christ awakens, the person grows and feels different. They gradually develop their internal spiritual aspect, gaining self-control, strength, and wisdom. A person who only possesses the seed of Christ without nurturing it is like a wild beast, driven by instinct without emotional control and lacking wisdom in their thoughts. They waste their time eating, sleeping, working in a routine manner, watching television, and engaging in the thousand superficial things that fill the lives of so many unconscious individuals. The true value that makes a person grow is the awakening of the inner Christ, the inner master full of wisdom and power to enlighten, bless, and prosper the incarnated human in the dense plane. The Christ is united with the divine presence, which is the Father or the first person of the Trinity, through the supreme energy, both being united in power and glory. But the man without the Christ is a poor savage lost in the forest, an ignorant child constantly in error, while the man with the Christ is the greatest being of creation. The beloved Higher Master says that one who practices contemplation and consciously strives to awaken and grow their Christ becomes one of my legionnaires and is frequently assisted by me. Chapter 18. Your Protective Cloak. When you enter your room to be quiet, rest, read, or engage in any personal activity requiring concentration, the first thing you do is close the door and ensure that no one will disturb you during that time. In this way, you can accomplish what you wish with peace and tranquility. After withdrawing into silence and isolating yourself from external disturbances, if you do not take such precautions, you will be constantly interrupted by conversations, intrusions, noise, phone calls, interruptions, etc. You will not be able to focus on your work, and everything will be disrupted. The same applies in the spiritual realm. It is necessary to take appropriate precautions. First, it is advisable to close the door to anything that disturbs, then withdraw into inner silence with peace and tranquility to achieve satisfactory results. Closing the door to what is disturbing and annoying is appropriate protection of the light before calming down, relaxing, meditating, or practicing contemplation. If someone innocently enters a receptive state without taking the necessary precautions, they are exposed to annoying deceptions and disruptions that could be avoided by proper implementation. No one would leave the door of their house open to any passing intruder, nor would they invite them in with similar or identical words. Come wrongdoers, come drunkards, sadists, thieves, prostitutes, and dissolute persons. This is inconceivable. For it is the same when someone enters a receptive state and out of ignorance does not provide appropriate light protection before relaxing or entering into contemplation. Withdrawing into silence means being at peace with oneself, calming the human part, relaxing, and focusing attention internally, allowing nothing disturbing or annoying from the outside. It is necessary to calm down enough to find that inner silence where all things are given. The light protection we advise is the electronic cloak of the divine presence I am, and the electronic circle indicated by the beloved Higher Master. It is also necessary to close the doors of our aura at the astral level to prevent anything disharmonious from that dimension from disturbing us. This practice generates a very powerful, though invisible, electronic energy that acts like a light glass wall against which anything annoying will collide, and what is better, not to receive. We are children of the light, for in it we move, live, and have our being. Every metaphysical student in the Great Brotherhood is a direct child of the light, and is normally assisted by the masters of the ascending hierarchy, especially by Saint Germain and his twin ray, who in physical life was named Connie Mendez. Light, as the supreme power, is in every beating human heart with self-sustaining life. Light is the vital essence, the self-aware energy that produces instant perfection and knows no opposites or opposition, for it always leads to perfection. When light is invoked into action, all that is imperfect disappears, and discordant human creations cannot remain. Light sweeps away all imperfection, dissipates all error, restores harmony, and floods the purification process with its masterful power. When a person enters a dark and unknown room, they feel uneasy, anxious, and frightened. But as soon as they turn on the light, all shadows disappear, and peace arrives. The same applies on the spiritual plane. By invoking the light, the lower dissipates, and problems find a solution. Light is the central point of life everywhere. It is the radiant center of every atom constituting the physical body. Thus, perfection is always within as essence and power, but the discordant human qualification of thoughts and feelings forms around this pure point of light like a dense cloud of imperfection that grows and obscures existence. This is how bad, disturbing things are born, which the human being encounters throughout their life, and which cause discomfort and suffering. Everything that exists is pure light at its center. Discordance, the disruptor, is added by man around this pure light due to the misuse of free will. Every individual on earth has a shell of imperfection added to their light, hence the urgent need for purification at a generalized level. Man has covered himself with dark veils that he must now remove to allow the light to shine again from within outwardly. When one bathes, they get rid of dirt with soap and water. Similarly, this dirt added to perfection must disappear through personal efforts and conscious decision, so that pure light shines again in all its splendor, and human pain comes to an end. What they call ugliness, wickedness, selfishness, and all other discordant conditions are additions to the original perfect light present in every being. We are children of the light, and this must not be forgotten. Therefore, we have the obligation to carry out this purification within ourselves as quickly as possible. Everything comes from light. Light is the universal substance from which all living, animate and inanimate forms have emerged. It is the source of everything that exists, the supreme force that animates all that is and manifests itself in the dense plane. In the entire cosmos, nothing can be or exist if it does not emanate from this powerful source, the mighty universal and cosmic light. There is only one power capable of moving through all creation, and that is the great electronic light that exists everywhere and penetrates every manifestation. The law of life of the entire universe is the law of light. In it, we are, exist, and have our being. Nothing can live outside of light. Negative polarity called evil is an absence and lack of light. It always strives to disrupt and produces enough disturbances if the person allows it, thus opening themselves to this influence. This polarity is referred to as sinister forces. We prefer to refer to it as the other polarity. Religion speaks of hell, demons, etc., which are nothing more than entities from the lower astral or undeveloped disembodied beings that harass and interfere. The astral is the immediate plane beyond ours, where those who undergo the change called death go. It is also called the fourth dimension and comprises 7 levels. Chapter 19. Listen to the voice of your inner being. Most people do not perceive the voice of their inner God because they have not learned to listen, neither outwardly nor inwardly. They live turned towards the noise and agitation of the external world, with attention centered on sensory appearances. It's like this. A young person turns up the volume of the radio to dance with their partner, and the phone rings in the next room. They don't even notice the call because they are focused on the loud music. To answer the phone, they will have to interrupt the dance, calm down, and turn their attention in another direction. The same applies in everyday life. Attention is focused outward on what is striking and impressive, and the inner is not heard because it is too faint. Yet the inner impulse, the inner voice, always remains like the conscience that gnaws if something wrong is done. The inner voice is a source of illumination and is a very reliable guide. One who has developed this faculty becomes a victor and seldom errs. Some historical figures of the past owed their success to listening to their inner voice and taking the necessary time to do so. For example, in India, the mystic Gandhi succeeded in freeing his country from British rule without shedding a drop of blood. Scientist and inventor Thomas Edison received his particular ideas in an astonishing way through a form of meditation. Writer Mark Twain, President Abraham Lincoln, and further back in the past, the young Frenchwoman Joan of Arc. Each person has their own technique for perceiving their inner voice, but it requires some practice and experience to yield results. What is the inner voice? It is how our divine presence speaks to us. For this, it is necessary to practice contemplation or an effective type of meditation. It is necessary to temporarily close the doors to what is external and withdraw into silence to refine oneself and hear what comes from within. When a person is blocked by anxiety, anguish, or negative feelings, results are not obtained because the necessary relaxation, which opens the door to higher perception, has not been achieved. Impulses and premonitions are the most common form through which the inner voice expresses itself. It is something very subtle but of great power if we put it into practice. When you feel the impulse to do something, do it, no matter how absurd it may seem. You will later see that it is the right thing to do and the best. The divine presence has surprising ways, always more glorious than those we can imagine. If we yield control to it, we will benefit from it. We already know that truth comes from the heart and not from logic or intellect. When the heart and brain express themselves to examine a problem or personal situation, it is better to prioritize what one feels rather than what one thinks. For the heart is a sure guide to avoid error. Truth and precise understanding come from within in these cases, in the form of a sudden idea, an intuitive flash. For intuition is the voice of the divine presence, that is, the voice of God. Everyone is spoken to by their divine presence, for everyone has intuitions and impulses and has perceived them at some point in their life. However, few people pay attention to these things. Ordinary people without great spiritual development dismiss their premonitions because they consider them absurd and senseless. This is why there are so many failures and mistakes in the world. When the individual is very materialistic and blocked, their intuition is almost imperceptible, except on rare occasions. This type of perception occurs at any moment in everyday life and does not require seeking a sudden answer through contemplation. When the person consciously makes the effort to contact their divine presence by dedicating some time each day to contemplation, communication begins to open up and the channel gradually widens. All the most beautiful experiences are possible for those who persevere in this practice. But it must be warned of the following. Do not expect surprising phenomena, unusual things, or for a voice to speak to you in the same way that you and I communicate with others. The voice is perceived without sound, usually within your own brain. It is something telepathic, so unphenomenal that it may seem like your own thoughts. When you pose a question to your divine presence regarding a problem or personal situation, and then enter into silence through meditation, the first idea that comes to you is often the right one. If it makes you happy or joyful, it's good. You will then say, I found it, this is what I was looking for, it's wonderful. I give you this advice. Reject anything that causes discomfort, doubt, worry, or dismay. That does not come from the presence. It is not the right answer. The solution you seek does not always come during contemplation and meditation, so if nothing comes, you must let go. It will happen that at any moment of the day, as you go about your daily tasks, you will have an understanding and know with certainty what to do. The technique of calming down, asking a question, and then letting go is very good in all circumstances. Hearing voices is not the same as the inner voice. Generally, voices are heard as whispers in the ear, and you feel they are trying to tell you something. Pay no attention to this, it is of a lower order and not suitable at all, for these are astral interferences that come to disturb. This can happen because you have not yet learned to protect yourself with light and the electronic belt. Secure defenses against anything lower and disruptive. This also happens to people who are very interested in the psychic and thus open the door to their world. Likewise, when a person falls into sadness and depression, if they are ignorant and do not practice spirituality, they might hear these voices. In the case where a person is very sensitive with certain innate perception faculties, it is by no means appropriate to listen to voices. These are disruptive beings that spiritists call disturbing spirits. They are disembodied individuals who are in the astral plane awaiting a new reincarnation and are of a medium or low level of evolution. What you must do is reject this immediately, invoke the divine presence to action, and make the necessary light protection. Pay no attention to this and do not be frightened, for it is not worth it. Few people hear voices. We advise you to leave the realm of the psychic and abandon it definitively. Do not be interested in fortune tellers, witchcraft, or any other type of activity that creates a vibrational affinity with this type of experience. Chapter 20. Overcoming Obstacles in Life. Do not let yourself be disturbed. It is necessary to sincerely warn the students of the light who begin to engage in the effort of spiritual development, as well as those who join after periods of passivity and disorientation. When you arrive at the Saint Germain fraternity, you have already reached the last step, and in past lives you have traversed the previous steps on the planet, moving from one religion to another, from one philosophical system or esoteric school to another. By the right of conscience and by the law of cause and effect, everyone arrives at their rightful place. But then things become serious. If you do not know how to maintain the objective and allow yourself to be interfered with by external conditions that often arise, you will miss the opportunity. In such cases, the student drifts away from practical instruction, ceases to attend discussions, and the influences of the world start reaching them again. For there are only two alternatives. Either you are with the light, or you remain with the problems and fall back into the turmoil of people asleep in unconsciousness. It is common to see very interested students begin to miss classes for one reason or another: a surprise visit, illness, family dispute, invitation to a party, a task to complete, fatigue at work, or any other activity. All of this seems more important at that moment, and they postpone the light until later, gradually drifting away until they no longer remember it and lose their motivation. They cool down, and the impulse that drove them to attend the discussions weakens. Why do some fail? There is a reason. These students who let their interest wane do not realize that they are being disturbed, so that they abandon the spiritual path and continue to empower the external things of the world that distract, distance, enslave, and prevent external evolution. Do not empower the outside. Indeed, the human being is superior to external conditions and can dominate them, but does not know it. That is why they fix their attention on what disturbs them, thus giving it power rather than dissolving it. Those who allow the outside to interfere in their lives and prioritize resolving the world's problems before spiritual aspects will end up with their own problems and difficulties. Therefore, they will not be able to free themselves from them. The technique is the opposite. First, take care of the spiritual, and everything else will naturally follow. This means that things will be resolved easily, because the spiritual, with the appropriate knowledge, overcomes unhappy situations, no matter how imposing they may appear. When a difficulty arises to prevent attendance at the lectures, the student must first say the light, then the problems. Follow his teachings calmly, and you will see how everything gradually resolves well after acting correctly and following the necessary treatments to eliminate the interference that manifests. No valuable achievement in life is made without effort, perseverance, discipline, and willpower. What is easily acquired fades away and does not endure. It is essential to value this teaching and what you receive, or else you risk losing it and it will not be easy to regain it. Why are there interferences? There are two significant causes in this situation. First, we live in a time of change and transformation as the planet rapidly progresses towards an initiation, eliminating and transmuting all lower conditions that have kept humanity in delay and suffering. We know that a great cycle of 14,000 years is ending now, which is very special in the history of human evolution. The great cosmic wheel begins anew with another 14,000 years, and all that is low and imperfect will be eliminated. We are living through challenging times of transmutation towards perfection, which will manifest in much better conditions from the year 2000 onwards, but currently there is a strong struggle between good and evil, between the positive and the negative. The lower forces resist greatly and refuse to withdraw completely, knowing that this is their final battle. They act subtly, using humans, conscious or not, as forces launched from the fourth dimension, the astral plane, egregores, or mental creations and suggestions. Their tactics are varied, and when they see someone accessing more light than usual, they try to prevent it. This often goes unnoticed because very few people are aware of these things. Those who are interested in witchcraft, psychism, spiritualism, Santeria, etc., are easy instruments for the lower astral, and find themselves caught in this web that disrupts their own lives and those of others. The other polarity also tries to distance the sincere student, but if they are warned, none of this has power over them. The second important reason is the opposition of the individual personality or the lower self, the human ego that fears losing all its power, the demon that has directed the life of the incarnated person on earth for centuries. By embarking on a path of higher light, where time is no longer wasted, the personality knows it is in danger of being annihilated and opposes with all its might. One of its tactics is to distract and distance the student, thus preventing them from attending lectures. Once the student starts this teaching, they begin to relinquish control to the higher divine presence to rise above the lower, which frightens the personality. There are also other minor interferences due to lack of perseverance, willpower, and discipline. The student is still spiritually weak and must strengthen themselves to not lose the treasure they have found. If they do not value it, the law will move them away to teach them a lesson. Generally, this leads to a return to suffering and what they had left behind. It is not possible to regress spiritually, but stagnations can occur and hinder evolution. Spiritual evolution is like climbing a mountain. Those who stop to admire the beauty of the landscape, the flow of water, and the singing of birds do not progress as quickly towards their goal as those who continue uninterrupted throughout the journey. One must remain vigilant and not allow any interference to paralyze or prevent the achievement of the ultimate goal. Chapter 21. Teaching from Higher Light Plans, Metaphysics. The instruction currently given by the Saint Germain fraternity, popularized and disseminated by Connie Mendes, finds its foundations directly in the light planes of the 8th octave, where reside the ascended masters of the White Brotherhood. It has mainly been dictated by the senior ascended master, who is charged with this special task as the avatar of the new era since 1954, marking the beginning of the age of Aquarius. Saint Germain imparts his teachings to elevate the consciousness of the Earth's children. However, long before that, in 1945, through Connie Mendes, known as Juana María del Concepto Inmaculado, according to the Masters of Light, this beloved master projected onto the physical plane a profound and simple Christian metaphysical teaching, of high level, supported and approved by all the other masters of the white hierarchy. This privilege is granted to Saint Germain because he is responsible for the spiritual destiny of the Earth for the next 2,000 years. Indeed, the planet is governed by cosmic cycles of 2,000 years, each under the direction of a master of wisdom. During the previous 2,000 years, the era was that of Pisces, and the responsibility for Earth's evolution was in the hands of Master Jesus, imparting the knowledge now called Christianity. However, as everything must continue in an upward spiral, Saint Germain is tasked with continuing the era of the violet ray, which has already begun. The metaphysical teaching we currently impart is not only based on the wonderful books written by Connie Mendes, but has also been gradually transmitted by the same wisdom masters composing the White Brotherhood, through channels. Channels are sensitive individuals of high spiritual evolution, serving as transmitters of knowledge when properly trained and protected. Connie Mendes laid the groundwork for the movement by spiritually founding the fraternity in Caracas in 1945, but she had been working for a long time to expand this teaching through speeches, lectures, the training of guides, and personal supervision of the work. The masters have always spoken through channels, primarily Master Jesus, as these two masters are united in the great work. Before Master Jesus, in the era of Aries, it was Moses who imparted the teaching and raised the level of the masses, an influence also extending over 2,000 years. There is nothing psychic in this form of reception. It differs entirely from spiritualism because it is something higher. Channels are not mediums. They do not fall into trance, lose consciousness, and are not in contact with the astral plane but with the higher planes of the 8th octave of the ascended masters. Therefore, there is nothing psychic in this work nor any violation of the holy law of free will. The masters always watch over and supervise their work, so to speak, in the company of the one who, in her lifetime, was called Connie Mendes. Connie Mendes's work has borne wide fruits. Every person holding one of these extraordinary and simple books in their hands feels a shock throughout their being due to the high vibration they contain and begins to awaken spiritually. Then, by the law of vibration, they position themselves in the continuity of the movement to apply and practice the teaching in their daily life while expanding their level. The books are seeds thrown into the world and always bear fruit. Connie's work was perfectly guided. She came into the world with a specific mission to fulfill for South America and the planet in general, to impart, expand, and popularize in a profound and simple way the teaching of the senior master. Connie Mendes had as her masters Amber Fox, the founder of the biblical movement called Unity, and Agapadol, who popularized the teaching of Master Saint Germain based on the use of the sacred name I Am and the magical violet flame of transmutation. Compared to Amber Fox, she went further in the sense that she soared higher and extended beyond the biblical beginnings, as Unity only accepts Master Jesus and does not recognize the ascended masters of the White Brotherhood. Then Connie Mendes established contact with the Bridge of Freedom of Prince, which recognized the senior master as the avatar of the new era. At this stage, in the United States, direct instructions were received from Tsenga, and all the ascended masters before the Saint Germain movement was founded in Caracas. The goal of the masters of the ascended hierarchy was to unite North and South America into one spiritual block, to elevate the earth on its path to the ascension that corresponds to it. When the teaching was firmly established, Connie Mendes received direct instructions from the senior master for 2 consecutive years without an intermediary, as she had already regained her esoteric abilities and extrasensory sensitivity. Then, the master sealed her chakras to protect her from the vibrations of the psychic plane, the astral world, and to avoid any external danger as well as interference from personality, discarnate beings, doubles, manipulators, and telepaths, etc. This is a precaution applied to all individuals destined for specific missions on the human plane, thus properly shielding them from any unnecessary disturbance. Regarding the furthest origins of this teaching, Connie Mendes recalls the esoteric wisdom of Enoch, father of Methuselah, who ascended to the planes of light in ancient times. The remnants of an ancient book discovered in England by an English archbishop gave rise to the knowledge of the 7 laws that govern the universe, mainly the law of mentalism. Connie calls Enoch the father of metaphysics. He was known by different names: Ernesto and Megisto in Greece, and Thoth in Egypt and Canaan. Chapter 22. I practice inner silence. External silence, if it means keeping quiet outwardly, controlling the power of words to speak well and correctly, results in a highly commendable virtue. You already know that speech is a powerful decree that always manifests outwardly. You give an order that must be executed. Regarding controlling words in violent situations, we advise the following. Instead of insulting someone and acting impulsively, which you will later regret, take a deep breath once or twice. In this way, you will achieve adequate self-control, and your words will not come out in anger. Such an attitude of anger is absolutely not beneficial, because this poorly qualified and poisoned energy, so to speak, will return to you multiplied, thus creating serious problems, mainly of health. There are many types of silence regarding external conditions. Keeping silent out of indifference, laziness, fear, or lack of enthusiasm. When something needs to be said and benefits no one, this involves what is commonly called a sin by omission. This sin means that one should have intervened to clarify something, advance a situation positively, defend someone, but one remained silent. Therefore, one has accumulated a karmic debt recorded in the book of one's life for a future day, when one will not defend someone who is dear to us, and one will also be ignored before the karmic court at the end of physical life. One will have to answer for all one's errors of omission. Keeping silent out of self-interest and selfishness is also not beneficial. If one benefits from keeping silent and gains a material profit from it, this silence will turn against one someday. Keeping silent out of insincerity and lack of courage to set things right is harmful to all. It is the cowardice of the weak and irresolute who never confront their difficulties, which only increases them further. Keeping silent to avoid lying is more dignified and discreet. This can be accepted because it demonstrates self-control and good feelings. But as the proverb goes, silence implies consent. Thus, one could attribute agreement to this silence. Silence out of wisdom and prudence is a highly recommended type of silence because it is not wise to share with others the things one is going to do or wishes to accomplish. For the following reasons: the doubts, fears, insecurity, negativity, and skepticism of others can negatively influence your project if they are enveloped in negative comments. This can greatly harm you, complicate things, affect your mood, and perhaps even distance what you wanted to do so much. For this reason, discreet silence is recommended until everything has fully manifested and one is stable enough to not be disappointed by what these rumors of others say that disturb, hinder, and paralyze action, as they are always accompanied by other comments that amplify the situation and add fuel to the fire. Silence about our beliefs regarding other people who are not interested in this path or who cannot understand it avoids mockery, sarcasm, verbal aggression, fear, and other negative feelings that should not be aroused. We never preach metaphysics nor impose these truths on anyone. People come alone by vibrational affinity. We do not have to seek, but they seek. We only provide information when sincerely asked and when they show genuine interest, because many are not yet ready. This teaching is the highest on the planet, and not everyone can understand it. Most are uninterested. Silence to learn to listen. Not everyone knows how to listen because they lack sufficient patience or because they believe themselves to be more important and better. One who quiets down and listens gains many advantages, because the other who rambles on in their words inadvertently exposes their soul and says everything unintentionally. In addition to gaining valuable information, one acquires a certain wisdom by letting others speak. One who talks a lot and boasts accomplishes little and generally deceives through exaggeration. If speech could materialize, we would say it is gold, and silence is silver, as the proverb goes. Silence to control criticism is highly recommended because a metaphysician cannot and should not be involved in it, knowing the truth about such a situation. One who criticizes will be criticized. In addition to generating negative energy and harming the other, it will come back to disturb them according to the law of the circle, which says that everything returns to its origin where it was created. Nothing and no one escapes this law. If a metaphysician suddenly finds themselves in a place where there is criticism, they will act as follows. First, they will remain silent and not participate in the conversation. Then, they will strive to stay calm and peaceful, not letting themselves be disturbed, and will declare through a decree or metaphysical treatment something like, "I do not accept this for myself or for them, because it is not the truth. I remain serene and peaceful. I invoke the law of forgiveness and the transmuting violet flame to dissolve this poorly qualified energy. I remain serene and peaceful. I am the divine order here, and none of this disturbs me. Thank you for strengthening my beloved presence." It may happen that despite this, if they are still new on this path, they may not be able to control their emotions, feel nervous and agitated, not knowing what to do. In this case, it would be better for them to politely leave the place, leaving the person who criticizes where they were. Otherwise, they will have a headache and feel unwell because they will no longer be in vibrational affinity with those people. Those who show true evolution are recognized by the correct use of speech. There are people who boast of being very wise philosophically, but speak disastrously and do not understand or have not realized the law of mentalism. We already know that one who does not know or practice the law of mentalism does not advance a step on the spiritual or material path. They only get bogged down with external or internal knowledge that they do not use and remain stuck in their basics. Intellect is only a database, a servant, and will never be master. If we want to advance spiritually, we must not give it too much power. Chapter 23. I calm down and enter my inner silence. Inner silence is very necessary to advance on the path of one's own spiritual realization. We must learn to calm down, relax, and silence the tumult of external things that cry out and demand so much attention. In this way, in the calmness of the physical self, controlling thoughts and feelings in peace, we will begin to perceive the truth that is within us. This is how contact with the divine power is made. External noise and tumult keep people asleep in unconsciousness, caught in the deception of senses and material successes. This makes them blind and deaf to their distorted values, which collapse rapidly, sometimes dealing a severe blow to the human part in an attempt to make it react. We already know that it is necessary to dedicate a certain amount of time daily to the practice of contemplation, even if only for 10 minutes, to learn to enter into silence, from which one emerges strengthened in health, vitality, and increased understanding of things. It is inside that power and true knowledge lie, the prodigious source to solve any situation, problem, or need. Knowing how to calm down and remain serene in critical moments of difficulties and disturbances is a magical key to success because it opens the doors to energy and divine power instead of closing them, as is generally the case when one becomes angry, agitated, worried, nervous, restless, or pessimistic. This behavior will then lead to an accumulation of dark, poisoned energy, which will act like a magnet to attract everything that is bad, disruptive, causing problems for the one who seeks to free themselves from suffering and live happily. Therefore, self-control must be exercised, and the tranquility of the human self must be maintained in peace. Entering into silence is not a futile passivity on the outside, as one will not spend hours meditating only. One will go to the source to seek understanding, power, and strength to make contact with the divine presence, I am, rather than just seeking external help to solve one's difficulties. Once inner power has been contacted, one can go outside to settle their affairs and live in greater well-being, as what is external is also necessary. Because in this world, we are here to act and learn. In the silence of the inner self, all answers come, and one receives advice that prevents mistakes, falling into serious difficulties and errors. Do painters, musicians, writers, and artists know that their inner God, their higher self, guides them to perfect success through what is called inspiration? This is a way to enter into silence, to learn to listen to the inner voice without needing words. But for this, peace is needed, to have harmony in one's feelings. Any external discord, displeasure, or problem cuts off communication with the Divine Master, the individual I am. When a painter, writer, or artist strives to create beauty with only their human part and the efforts of their external will, by shutting themselves inwardly, the result is very poor, mediocre. For only inner power is capable of creating what is superior, what truly matters. If you read a book, you must enter into silence to understand and know what it says. Similarly, if you want to hear your divine inner presence, to contact its power for your own good, you must enter into silence to silence your human part, so that it does not stir and allows you to hear. Learning to be alone is not within everyone's reach. Finding tranquility to read, listen to music, meditate, or create disturbs many people who feel physically alone and find it unbearable. Therefore, they constantly seek the company of others. There are also those who are very solitary, always enclosed within themselves, and consequently, they shun others. But extremes are never good, as they upset the balance of peace. The best solution is a middle ground, to live normally in society, while also seeking certain moments to be alone, in well-being and joy. Learning to listen to oneself without falling into reproach or self-censorship is very beneficial. One must also know how to isolate oneself, meditate anywhere, center inwardly, without letting external tumult or noise disturb. Placing one's thoughts on the divine presence by invoking its power is a beautiful and brief meditation, even if one is on the street, at work, on the bus, or anywhere. Contact with nature, spending a day of rest in the countryside, in the mountains, and feeling relaxed and calm there, is good therapy on the path of self-discovery and peace. In this case, do not seek lively places like crowded beaches where music resonates loudly from speakers and personal radios left anywhere. There is no true silence in these places. Furthermore, the sun, too strong for sunbathing, received directly and passively, forces the body to work excessively to protect itself or causes health problems. It is better to receive the sun gently through the branches of trees, while walking instead of remaining still, enduring its powerful rays. The silence of nature helps in meditation and easily connects with the higher. In these quiet places in the countryside and mountains, there are no interferences, and everything gently leads to inner silence. Spiritual experiences should be kept secret from strangers who neither understand nor are interested in them. An exception can be made in discussions with the aim of empowering others and giving them confidence in the truth of the teaching. Each person has their own experiences, which are never the same as those of others. Comparison could therefore disappoint or arouse distrust in oneself. The doubts of other minds, even if silent, are also not beneficial. Let us know how to keep silent on the path of our own spiritual realization. Chapter 24. Forgiving and Forgetting. In general, the concept of forgiveness is a religious principle of good morality infiltrated into minds to behave well, but this proves insufficient in practice. Religion says that we must forgive, but it does not teach the reasons or why we should do it. That is why it is rarely practiced. It is not very convincing to have to forgive just because one must forgive, because human nature resists that greatly when something has offended it. However, it is true that one must forgive not just because one must, but to free oneself from calamities and misfortunes. The reasons for forgiveness are many and undoubtedly very beneficial. You will pay me for it. There are people who, after being hurt, defamed, or wronged, remain in a vindictive attitude, full of resentment and ill will towards others, constantly recalling what was done to them. Since they have not forgiven, the idea of repaying the received harm constantly haunts them. They think that revenge is the most just and correct thing to do. However, this mental attitude of repaying evil for evil greatly disrupts life, steals inner peace, causes great trouble, irritates, disturbs, and can even trigger a serious illness. This happens because the energy charged with hatred, irritability, and violence always returns to its origin, causing havoc in one's own body, affairs, and personal matters. Those who nurture feelings of resentment and ill will towards others, regardless of whether the reasons are just or unjust, will not succeed in life. It is not possible to avoid this unless one changes one's mental attitude. Forgiveness, through self-awareness, diverts the flow of negative energy that returns. When one sincerely forgives and is at peace, one avoids personal catastrophes that silently occur. It is not enough to simply renounce vengeance and resentment to adopt an indifferent and passive attitude. You must extinguish this hornet's nest that you have created and drive them away as far as possible. None of this can be done without true and authentic forgiveness, not just silent, but expressed. You must say sorry to those who feel hostility towards you, not only for their sake, but because it is also beneficial for you. I know that hating does not suit me. Forgiveness includes not only serious matters, but also small offenses and ordinary disagreements. One must always forgive because it is very beneficial for us. If you tell someone you'll pay for it, and you put it into practice, you do not know what misfortunes and bitterness await you. Moreover, you poison yourself mentally and fill yourself with uncontrollable anger, always on alert. Thus you open the door to lower astral entities that can disturb you and worsen things further. Every human being must learn to love, whatever the cost. This is the lesson that Master Jesus came to teach almost 2,000 years ago, and still very few have understood it. If you move in a lower and destructive domain, the same destruction you wish upon others will fall upon you to teach you to maintain your feelings in harmony and not to desire for others what you do not want to happen to you. Now you know that man is a creator and must learn to control this tremendous potential for good. Evil only comes from ignorance. One who does not violate the laws that govern life does not fall into the abyss. Forgiveness opens the doors to inner power and allows the Father, the Divine Presence, to help you elevate your life and your personal world. Without forgetting, forgiveness is not possible. Many sincerely believe they have forgiven and say so, but then they spend their time remembering in detail what others have done to them in the past or present. If this memory persists, it is evident that they have not truly forgiven, because true forgiveness involves forgetting offenses and injustices, everything that causes hatred and resentment. If someone says, "I forgive, but I do not forget what was done to me," they are simply playing with words, because in that case, there is no forgiveness at all. The benefits of forgiveness benefit more the one who forgives than the one who is forgiven, because the one who is hated does not always seek to be forgiven, while the one who forgives receives the greatest benefits. They improve their health, find peace in their life, harmonize their feelings, and find tranquility. They also free themselves from the suffering of encountering problems and difficulties and free themselves from future karma that would torment them. They lighten their emotional burden and feel relieved because discontent and ill will towards others bring bitterness into life. They thus regain joy and well-being. Similarly, they close the doors to lower astral entities that could torment them before by adjusting their vibrational level in relation to them. You know that those who hate and have ill will towards others, those who seek revenge with a "you'll pay for it," create bad vibrations and sink into the abyss of misfortune, health problems, family problems, business problems, etc., because all hatred turns into suffering. There are people who have become paralyzed from hating, even developing Parkinson's disease, disrupting their health so much that they move more quickly towards the change called death, unless they avoid it in time. We must learn to forgive because it is not easy, and it is one of the most serious experiences that human beings encounter. This should not be an act imposed by other principles or dogmas, but a gesture of personal decision and understanding, expressed freely. Chapter 25. Understanding and practicing higher consciousness. To quickly free oneself from problems and difficulties, it is necessary to understand things from a higher perspective. This will bring the necessary tolerance to forgive and find peace. By looking closely at situations from below, everything seems small and can lead to clashes of opinions or actions. One must always rise to have a broader horizon ahead and thus better understand things. When one ascends a tower, a mountain, or looks down from an airplane, they realize the immensity of the panorama. By ascending, one will always find greater amplitude. This also happens with the realities of life. They are better understood and resolved more easily if one knows how to elevate their thoughts and feelings with a higher understanding. In the difficult situation of forgiving those who have offended or harmed us, a higher understanding is particularly necessary, but one who is a student of metaphysics possesses the knowledge that elevates towards higher understanding and realization, because truth sets you free from all that is lower. And if someone has offended, hurt, or caused harm to you, consider that it happens out of ignorance, and because the level of evolution of that person does not allow them to go beyond. As you know, there is the law of cause and effect, so everyone reaps what they sow for others. Therefore, it is not necessary to worry about what others do, but rather to strive to lead one's own life well, because only one's own actions will have to be accountable before the karmic court at the end of material existence, known as the day of death. To avoid hatred and criticism towards others, it is better to think this way. What he does and how he behaves is not my concern. It's his problem. Regarding true forgiveness, what matters most is to feel it and realize it internally. If it is not easy to verbally express forgiveness to the person you have forgiven, or if it is not possible, do not worry too much about it, because feeling it is enough to free yourself from that burden. It has worked, so do not stoop to the same level in conflict situations, problems and difficulties with others. Avoid head-on collisions, because it is not wise to respond to an insult with another insult, and to a blow with another blow. One who stoops to the same level as what is lower always suffers greatly. Imagine what it would be like to stand in the middle of a field, arms open, facing a herd of wild horses running at full speed. You would end up on the ground battered, trampled, and seriously injured, not to mention the possibility of losing your life. Instead of proceeding in this way, it would be smarter to climb a tree and, from the height of its branches, observe the wild horses passing by and destroying everything without suffering any harm. One who is a spectator and who has managed to protect themselves is the target of a dark and dense destructive energy that strikes and destroys everything in its path. It is necessary to step aside from this current and let it pass below calmly. For this, it is enough to elevate your thoughts through an affirmation or metaphysical treatment. Remain serene, do not lose control, then say, "I do not accept this because it is not the truth. It does not interest me, and I place myself above this condition. Beloved Presence, I invoke you to act here, and I invoke the divine order to manifest itself. Thank you." Self-forgiveness is very important to live in peace and not to fall into difficulties if one makes a mistake or commits errors. Forgive yourself on every occasion without remorse or reproaches of any kind. Never qualify yourself as stupid, idiot, moron, or any other term that many people frequently say to themselves. All of this is imprinted in the subconscious and will reflect at an unexpected moment with serious consequences because you will behave like this in all circumstances without being able to control it. Similarly, feeling compassion or pity towards oneself is not beneficial because it weakens and diminishes, resolving nothing. Face your mistake properly and transmute it with the violet flame, without guilt, complexes, or reproaches. All of this is harmful. The law of forgiveness has been placed at our service to positively and perfectly resolve any past or present unpleasant problem or situation from which we want to escape. If the law of forgiveness is not invoked, nothing can be resolved positively because forgiveness is needed to correct the mistakes we have made in order to receive the necessary assistance from the divine presence and the light plans of the ascended masters who help us. After invoking the law of forgiveness, one must ask for the consuming violet flame so that this powerful energy transmutes and positively changes everything that disturbs the great love for this planet and the law of universal mercy. It is allowed to happen quickly as powerful assistance to regenerate this world of calamities and misfortunes created by failure and ignorance, by the misuse of life and personal free will. One who invokes the law of forgiveness and the violet flame with perseverance can consume all past errors, bad creations, and be free. A narrow view of things, sticking to them, creates mistakes and problems because closeness obstructs clarity of vision. It is necessary to set aside personal passions and observe things from above with objectivity. Those who live very close to others and become too familiar eventually abuse it without realizing it. If you only look at an ant, you will never understand an elephant because of the limited vision. But if you look down from the back of an elephant, perhaps no ant will interest you anymore, as the small things have lost their value and you ignore them. Remember that understanding comes after a broad view of things, and without understanding, forgiveness is not possible. Much suffering and difficulty can be avoided with this broad understanding provided by the superiority of knowledge. Chapter 26. Happiness is within me. Happiness is not the same for everyone in the transitory world in which we live. There is no clear and defined concept of what happiness is. While some think it lies in certain conditions of economic well-being and family peace, others believe that falling in love and marrying the loved one constitutes the epitome of happiness that this world can offer. For a child, happiness may consist of getting the favorite toy they have desired so much. But for an adult, the motives for happiness are not as simple but rather disparate and different. A politician may find happiness in obtaining power in a high and important position, while for those who suffer from scarcity, happiness lies in having money and becoming rich. Some women want to be beautiful and admired, many seek their perfect love, etc. For all these reasons, what is called happiness presents many nuances and forms, because what brings happiness to some does not even interest others. Man seeks happiness due to an internal desire for elevation and perfection, but always makes a mistake in believing that everything is outside. He constantly experiences through external elements such as money, sex, and emotions, power, entertainment, fame, standing out, dominating and imposing on others, reaching positions and honors, being admired, and acquiring material goods, etc. On numerous occasions, he realizes how illusory and ephemeral this type of happiness is, and sees that after achieving it, it may no longer be of interest, what seemed to be the epitome of happiness. Where is happiness found? There are many forms of what is called happiness in appearance for those who seek it outside in transient material things, such as a house, a car, a bank account, etc., but they fail to retain it because the external world is very changing and illusory. After obtaining what they desired so much, and for which they have devoted countless efforts, they may become bored, lose all interest, and forget. Because happiness is not in external material things, one can earn a lot of money to lose it suddenly. Passionate love can cool down and no longer be of interest either. In this changing world, the lasting and permanent are rare. Everything inevitably tends to disappear, because it is the law of dense matter on the physical plane. Happiness is not found in emotions and external material pleasures because it is an inner state that very few people manage to achieve. It is linked to peace, balance, agreement, and inner advancement. It is brought about by contact with the divine being and the higher levels of light, consciously or unconsciously. Similarly, some states of pure and generous love disinterest from this condition called happiness, as is the case with devoted mothers and wives. Some doctors and teachers deeply engaged in their work. Whoever is well placed in their work according to their abilities and the aspirations of their heart, who fulfills their duty well and works with love, thinking of giving more than receiving, enjoys a certain spiritual satisfaction, very similar to what can be called happiness on earth. However, these people may also encounter setbacks, problems of different types in their lives, and not achieve complete happiness. There are many paths in the search for happiness, each one chooses according to their tastes and preferences. The aspiration to be happy always persists, even if man is often disappointed by the experiences lived. There is not on earth this sublime condition of happiness, but rather a certain well-being that comes somewhat close to it. This happens because this world is a school of the cosmos where we come to learn in a difficult way to balance past debts that are pending karmas generated by oneself in the past. However, by mercy and divine grace, each person goes through certain happy conditions in their life that give them strength and encourage them to continue to accomplish the rest of the difficult task. Who has never experienced a burst of this divine well-being that comes with an illusion, an unexpected event, a realized hope, even once? No one is devoid of this experience. To achieve happiness in its perfect condition, it is necessary to free oneself from all that is lower, from this wheel of births and deaths, by reaching ascension towards spiritual planes of light. There, life and activity continue at higher levels, in such a high manner that we cannot even imagine this wonder. By overcoming imperfection, all suffering and limitations disappear. Man is an eternal being made of light and energy. The dense material part that he must learn to master is the one that causes unhappiness, and everything that comes from the lower self or the human personality, but especially from the misuse of energy and life, which creates a lot of suffering for the future. Those who selfishly enjoy this happy well-being with dominance attitudes, enjoying the situation alone and oppressing others, will then realize how ephemeral the happiness they had before is. This can happen, for example, with the man who marries a very beautiful woman and then tyrannizes her with a desire for possession. She endures as much as she can and then leaves. Similarly, children distance themselves from the dominating and arrogant father as soon as they can, and family well-being disappears. One should not wait, as passive and conformist people rarely feel happy. In general, to reach this state, one must first sow a good harvest in order to reap later. As a well-known proverb says, "He who sows the wind reaps the whirlwind." Therefore, by practicing the eternal present, that is, doing good today, we can begin to sow happiness for the days to come. If something unexpected and unfortunate happens to us, it comes from a previous unfortunate sowing that may be related to past lives or to this current existence. With the light of new knowledge and appropriate treatments, we can transmute this. We must learn to do it. Let us thank God every day for the many gifts and blessings we enjoy, which we often take for granted. We do not realize their value until we lose them. Many people lament, suffer, and feel unhappy for something they have lost, or because they lack it. However, they can console themselves by looking at what they still have, what remains for them, and what they can still enjoy. Take paper and pencil to make a list of everything you have. A family, even if there are quarrels, a home, even if it is small, a job, even if it is not as good as you would like, friends, health, etc. Think about how many people lack these things. By making a list of everything you have, you will realize that you are not as unhappy as you thought, and will begin to be grateful. Every day say, "Thank you, Father, for the blessings I enjoy." Chapter 27. Connie Mendez's Scientific Prayer. The simplest form of praying and asking for what we desire so that the Father grants it to us is explained by Connie Mendez in her book, Metaphysics Accessible to All. The infallible formula is found in the 5th chapter of the book, so that you understand well what scientific prayer is and how it should be done. The infallible formula consists of putting the problems we want to solve in the hands of the Father, so that He solves them with His infinite wisdom and power. First, you must know clearly what you want Have determination and firmness in your request so as not to change direction in your request, as it does not work like that. You must persist. The correct words of this formula are as follows: in harmony for all, according to the divine will, under grace and in perfect ways. First, express your desire well by saying, "I want this, in harmony for all," etc. You will do the treatment only once, as it is not necessary to repeat it. However, every time your desire comes to mind, say, "Thank you, Father, because it has already been granted to me, and I am waiting for it." Erase with the violet flame the recordings of fear and doubt that are within you, as they can prevent the realization of your requests due to lack of faith. If you do things out of curiosity, or to see if they work, it will not work either. An attitude of joyful expectation is always very beneficial, as it brings joy and hope. You must be attentive not to miss opportunities, not to let them pass, and to recognize them as soon as they present themselves. You know that you have God within you, who is the divine presence I am, the Father who watches over you from eternity. He only wants your well-being and perfection, so that you live happily and lack nothing. The Father never punishes. He is always filled with love and understanding, desiring that you progress and improve. He gives you all the help you ask of him, otherwise the great law does not allow it, for reasons of evolution and free will. Chapter 28. The Divine Order. There is a metaphysical principle of great importance that, when put into practice, will gradually transcend your life. This is the divine order. Understanding and realizing this truth frees people from suffering and relieves them of their problems and difficulties, because by invoking a spiritual law, the lower self obeys and falls into order. What is the divine order? It is the harmonious adjustment of all situations to the truth of God, which is perfection itself. The truth sets us free. It must be felt and put into practice to live in this truth of goodness and perfection, which is the duty and something natural for every metaphysical student of light. One who realizes the divine order lives in peace and harmony with oneself and with others. He feels good in his work, does not create quarrels or family, professional or social discord, does not suffer from fears, anxieties. He does not see things tragically or become depressed in the face of setbacks. The divine order means being at peace with one's children, with one's spouse, parents, friends and acquaintances, enjoying perfect health, not wasting time in unnecessary suffering. For there is so much to learn and achieve. One who laments paralyzes and stagnates. The divine order must be conquered. It is not a passive but an active condition. It takes decision, will, action and courage to achieve it. The divine order is found after going through unhappy conditions of disorder and suffering, which are hard and necessary lessons. Everything incorrect, every mistake, everything that causes suffering, fear or agitation must be corrected and straightened out. The divine order is not present when something is wrong or causing suffering or dread. It must be harmonized. Here is the divine order, are very powerful and effective words. When you invoke the divine order, you decree it and feel it. It acts considerably, and things that seemed almost magical happen. We see that everything starts to get better. Just say, feeling and with faith, here is the divine order. No matter what happens, even if it is very negative or disruptive, do not accept it and decree the divine order. The divine order must be invoked for any need you need to meet that manifests a lack or limitation, whether it be lack of money, affection, work, etc. Decree the divine order to relieve pain, protect someone, start the car if the battery does not respond, to resolve a dispute you are witnessing, to overcome difficulties or problems that seem insoluble. You must close your mind to negative aspects, not accept them, and decree perfection in all things, for in it lies the truth of God. Remember that the divine order does not impose itself alone, and not so quickly sometimes. For everything has a process for its manifestation. It requires effort, will, commitment, and perseverance. Think of a house that is completely dirty and messy, full of dust. It takes time to clean and organize it, and it is done with effort and will. If no one cleans the dirty house, it will remain in that state. Everything must be planned and then carried out. The divine presence works through us, but we must decree and ask for it because of our free will. Examine your life and affairs. How are they? If your home, work, financial situation, health, or any other aspect of your life is not in accordance with goodness and perfection, which is the truth, start decreeing the divine order with faith and determination today. The process of harmonizing things is more or less long, depending on the strength and power you have previously given to what was unhappy, and which is not the truth. It must be liberated. The metaphysics of the Great Brotherhood teaches us to free ourselves from unhappy conditions. One who is tormented by the negative will of others does not live in truth. It is not good to accept resignation, because God always wants what is best for us, what is most beautiful, harmonious, and perfect. Human beings are only themselves when they negatively use their free will, energy, and life, and fall into unhappiness through their own fault because of ignorance, thus darkening their lives. Living in the divine order is a great blessing. To be able to achieve it, one must begin to live in truth, and today is the day. Do not postpone it until tomorrow. Every human being, no matter how humble, is part of universal harmony, and in all the cosmos there is only the divine order. Life, vital energy, or the Holy Spirit can be misused, free will and creative powers can be misused, but that is not appropriate, for it has a very high price translated into suffering and unhappiness. The divine order always manifests itself when we ask for it, affirm it, and decree it. The beloved Master Principal, Lord of the Divine Order, is an ascended Master and resides in the high spheres of light. You can invoke him to assist you in problems and difficulties requiring the divine order. The earth needs the divine order. What we ask for ourselves, we must also ask for all humanity. Our planet is currently living in very chaotic conditions and greatly needs the divine order. Let us decree the divine order for this world, our home. Decreeing the divine order for other people can gradually change them, but we must not observe the effects or interfere in their anguish. The secret of success lies in maintaining peace for the disorder and imperfection that we seek to eliminate, and thus they yield a